welcome back. You are getting down with Dave, and we are continuing the Battlestar Galactica comics. And I give a shout out. I believe that yesterday was the anniversary for the Battlestar Galactica TV show. It did air September 17th, 1978. And we are tracking along with the comics. If you guys have been following along, if not, we are doing episodes 5 and 6. And don't worry, if you're new tonight, I'll be scrolling down so you don't have to read me just putting them up to the screen. So I hope everybody's doing well. And we might have a few guests in tonight, but a few people may or may not make it. That's okay. There can be only one, right? But no. Hopefully we can get JT Ironcaster, maybe Mark D with a CN, although I think he had a lot of stuff going on tonight. But welcome to the show. And as always, I'm going to make sure that we're up and running. And yes, we are up and running. There's quite a big delay tonight on the YouTube side. A lot longer than normal. And since we don't have a lot of people here just yet, and maybe waiting on JT Kirk and Ironcaster, hopefully they will show up. I got my little Cylon. This is a Konami. I guess I should have grabbed the box while I was at it. Oops. Okay. So while I am all discombobulated on the live stream here, give me just a second, guys. I'm all sorts of jacked up here. Okay. There we go. Maybe we'll have something going on here. Hey Gab, how you doing? My headset wire was all jacked up in my seat there, man. Good to see you, and glad you could stop by. We're just hopefully waiting for JT or Ironcaster maybe to pop in, and we'll get rolling here in a minute. But good for you to stop by. I was just trying to show off my little Battlestar Galactica Cylon. And I'm surprised enough I haven't collected a lot of these. I did when I was younger, and you know, obviously I have the comics. You would know that from the beginning. You've been around. Yeah, it's a pretty cool one. It's a little bitty guy, but he's got the sword and he's got the classic rifle. And the other day I got in a huge Viper. I ordered it. I got a pretty good deal on it. It came in broken. I'm going to show that off. It's a 3D resin. It's 2 feet long. So I'm going to have to learn how to put that together and glue it. But I'm too scared to paint it unless you guys can recommend some other people that can do the weathering and stuff. But maybe I'll buy a smaller one and test run it on the big one and stuff like that. So so Gap, this is what it came in. This is the Konami. And it does have that one. And I missed one on eBay the other day. Forgot to bid on it. And it went really cheap with the Cylon Raider for like $60 for both of them. And I passed up on it. And there's the other ones that come with it. It's pretty cool. I can't believe I forgot to bid on that. And there was a guy selling like all of them at one time, but he wouldn't open the boxes to check them. And I was like, well, I don't want to buy 8 Cylon base stars. Could you just open the box and check them? So he didn't want to do that. I was like, okay, man, I don't know what to do. No, actually, Gab, that is going to be the Viper. Hold on. I'll show you the fuselage. I'm not sure this will even be. Yeah, dude, I'd have to put my other angle on, that test angle that I had. It won't even fit on the screen. So that's just the front end right there of it, right? And then this is one of the turbo engines. He was trying to put it all together. I'm glad he didn't, because I want to repaint it. I won't bring out all the pieces. I'll save that for another show, but you can get the idea. It's huge, right? So that's the cockpit. You can see just by my hand. I think it's about 2 feet long. I got this on eBay, actually, and I was going to get the Eagle Moss one, which I'm going to do some Eagle Moss figures, but I don't want to derail the Battlestar Galactica one. I didn't collect any of them. I got these, and I saw these Konami figures. I wanted those, but I wanted a big Viper. Although a lot of people like the Eagle Moss ones and some of the old Revell models and stuff like that. But I've never put a model together since I was like a little kid. Yeah. Yeah. Pete's cat. Hey, how you doing? Well, man, I'm going to have to find room for it sooner or later, right? This is what it's going to basically from N10, it won't even fit. That's how long it will be technically with the seat, the pilot. And I'm going to do a little stream on this, and I think maybe beg Mark D for C to help me with some of it. But it's all the parts are there. But this one came and it was cracked right open. The guy gave me a partial refund and some other things on it, but it'll go into it. It'll fit with some glue. So. Other than that, I guess we'll go ahead and start doing the comics. What do you guys think? Might as well get rolling. And let's see, what are we doing? Number 5 and number 6. Yeah, number 5. So last week, the comics have been tracking with the TV show. So as you guys know, or don't know, maybe, then that yeah, I'll tap dance for you, man. It's okay. Let me get my screen all set up. And I lost my glasses. I can't. I'm not that bad, but I can't see really, really small stuff. So there we go. And then I've got to go back to this one. Bring it down, go back to StreamYards, go back to this one, pull that one back up. Yeah, it's a real pain to try to do this by yourself because then like in this screen, unless I have a monitor to the right, I can see your guys' comments over here. So I do have another laptop, but I can't see them directly straight away unless I scoot this over and then see brand new ones and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and see if JT or Ironcast or any of those guys pop in. So if you follow the show, and if you guys didn't know, if you heard me, yesterday was the anniversary for Battlestar Galactica. And if I would have had time, I would have set up I had the time to set up a movie watch party, but I didn't think about it until too late because it's like 2 hours long. But the number 5 issue is going in with now it's off the first 3 episodes of the show, right? The first 2-hour movie episode of Battlestar Galactica was 3 episodes, and it covered the first 4 and all of 3 and 4 of the comic books. And now we're kind of going into the regular series called Lost Planet of the Gods Part 1 and 2, because I don't want to spoil too much of what's happening here in the comics. But the covers are nice. I mean, they changed up the box corner a little bit with just the Cylon, and it's still following the plot lines along. And checking over on my YouTube side, yeah, it looks pretty good. The artwork's not too bad. You got a lot of Cylons. You got the lady pilots. If you've been following along, a lot of the people got sick from the last episodes. No spoiler alerts, but you'll have to go back and check that out. So a lot of the ladies had to jump in and help out and take care of it and get trained to be actual warrior pilots. And to kind of catch up, the Battlestar Galactica had to lead the fleet into this big void. And while they were trying to get healed, most of everybody died. The doctor had to go down to this one planet. There was a big battle. And he came back with some medicine and stuff like that. But I won't try to do any spoiler alerts. it's kind of hard to do when you've seen the show a couple of times and read the comic book a couple of times. But it's called A Death in the Family. And if you don't know, well, you'll find out here soon enough. So you used OBS. Go ahead. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, the whole fleet had to go into this big void, and it's a little bit weird how they say, "Oh, the void, you can't drive. I mean, you can't fly around. Your systems are all messed up." But they do let on kind of that if they stay close enough together, they can keep track of each other for the most part. They can't really go off too far though. And they do a little recap here with the fighter pilots all dying from an unknown virus. In the opening splash page, we always talk about, at least the guys and I always try to say, this is where it really hits you, the cover. It's not bad, but the underside of the Galactica, there's no defining lines on it. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, Gap, driving in the void could be dangerous, especially imagine yourself floating in a room because you're not sitting, you're in a ship, but your ship is floating, right? You're in a Viper or whatever, and there's just nothing, no lights, nothing. That got to be pretty weird. But there is an interesting article here. Oh, JT. Hello, everybody, and welcome. JT Kirk. Can you hear us? Hello. JD. If you guys can hear JT, let me know. I'm assuming you guys can hear me because nobody's said anything.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yeah, StreamYards was having issues. So
yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, it's been a little bit weird lately. This computer's always got me nervous lately. It's been doing some weird stuff. I might need to do some technical work to it. But Gap and Putin is here. And as you can see, I was just doing a little bit of recap.
Yep.
Let me go in. Just tell them, there was a lot going on, right? In the last two comics that we did, but it was still tracking with the movie. I went back and watched Lost World of the Gods. Well, most of it, because I can almost remember it. Yeah, Lost Planet of the Gods. Sorry. As you mentioned, they do the titles at the end of the comic. That's not actually the title of the show.
Yes.
It's not a little weird, but that's what they do. Yeah, I just kicked in, and again, the art is okay. It's good. It's got a lot going on, but it doesn't have any lines on the bottom of the Galactica. Just thought that was weird. It's just flat. Right? I'm sure you noticed.
It's like a high polished, like, I wonder how reflective it is. It looks like like a refrigerator or something, right? Or a mirror.
Yeah, just like a mirror. And I was showing off my little Konami. You've probably seen my little Cylon guy, but I took him out of the package. Yeah. And my 2-foot long Viper that I got in that needs to be redone. I showed it to the guys. Yeah, Gap.
What needs to be redone on it?
It's needs to be glued together. One piece was crushed.
Oh no.
And then it'll need weathering and painting. The crushed piece will fit though, so it can be okay. It can be fixed. But yeah, I was just recapping with them that they're going into the void. Everybody was sick. All the girls were pilots now, which was a good thing because it saved them for helping out. And I couldn't say too much because of spoiler alerts, right?
Right.
So, what did you think? Did you have a chance to read these, or were you waiting till tonight, or did you recap on the show?
I have been waiting till tonight because I did not want to A, do spoilers, B, start getting ahead of myself like I did the last time. So, because when I read ahead, then I'm like, yeah, don't you think about, or what do you think about, this and that? And it's like, well, it hasn't happened yet. So, but I have read all of these before, so it's not truly like a fresh read.
There we go. I could only hear you out of one ear, and I
Oh.
figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's cool then, because then you'll see what's going on compared to the show, right?
Yes.
So as we know, they did go into the void. Everybody was still sick. Some of this can be a little confusing on the timeline because, like you had said last week, there's a lot going on, and they did kind of mess around with the timeline, time and space, no pun intended, with the ending of one of the last two issues from last week. The artwork's pretty good here, I think. Adama, good facial one. They're just talking about the vaccine, and here comes the doctor. And I did mention to them, JT, that even though they're in the void, they kind of talk about this in the show. They mention it in the show totally here, that if they stay close enough together, they can track each other in the void as long as they're close enough or something like that, right?
It's kind of like line of sight type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense that you're in this void. Like Ab said, it'd be hard to drive or something. Like driving the void can be dangerous. Yeah. And yes, Putin Cats, I totally agree with you. Jane Seymour in a G suit. Tight like
yeah.
So
yeah. Oh yeah.
We do catch up with the doctor finally, JT. He we lose track of him a little bit. He's in the shuttle, right? And they were on the planet. And he's made it back.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Yeah, and after they're already in the void.
Because right away you hear the vaccine's ready, but it may take several days to test properly. This is like right at the beginning, and we didn't have like any of that back in the last comic. So you've really fast forwarded, well, or picked a future chapter. Okay, I realize not everybody in your audience may have had VHS or earlier, right? But so they've traversed a lot of this story to just cut out all of the sciencey bit in the middle.
yeah, and especially the whole flying in the void thing. So I had to mention it, that it is talked about, especially in the TV show, that if you stay close enough, the Vipers can track each other with the Battlestar. So there you go. But you got to make things work, right, and move along. Yes. And I had some notes here. There's an interesting bullpen. Please remind me to check this one or the next one that dives into this very deeply, actually, and it's going to be great because it's going to talk about all the things we've all talked about, even in the chat, about time and how much time they have to fill in stuff, and to, like you had mentioned, the video I did with Hungry and you guys and stuff like that for comics. That's a good one. It gets brought up in the comic. So the doctor comes back. He's got this cure. He's hoping, and he's just going to give it to him. So, and I just straight up tell you, it doesn't fail. Obviously, we all know that, right? But it's a close call, and Starbuck and Apollo, they're looking after Boomer, and that's cool because they're checking on their buddy. And I guess it still always amazes me how many of those pods they had on the show, right?
Yeah.
They had a ton of them.
Yeah, they did. What is this click like thing with the sun? If you go back up a little bit, you see what I mean? Just go back up a little bit more.
A little more.
That thing right there.
It's a medical thing. It's like a thing that goes into the
right, but
door.
I'm saying what's the sun at the end of it?
I don't know. It's almost like he's boring. He's like lasering into Boomer's case.
Yeah,
it's a little odd.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like he's I don't know, what do you call it when you're welding?
yeah, exactly. But
yeah, some of the choices are a little weird in this comic. I can tell you that. That being one of them, and we'll always remember the guy on Caprica, right? The torch guy who lit up like Johnny Storm, right? So, or the torch, my bad. Yeah. So the doc saves them. If it wasn't for him, they'd all die, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he convinced them to go back to that planet before he comes back. He sent them and saves them, and Ty and Dom are talking. And we're going to go back a little bit to some of the things you brought up all the way back to the first episode, or first issue, is the religion.
Yes.
Well, they bring it back full circle here. Am I giving you enough time to read this, or am I going too fast?
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, just tell me to slow down. If you want to read this as we go along, by all means. Hey, B from O.
No, yeah. Oh, hey, B from O. How you doing?
Good to see
But
you, man.
It's definitely going back to the religious piece that we talked about from earlier, where there's this book that's like, okay, we almost like an Old Testament thing where they're wandering through the desert for 40 years, trying to find their way to Israel, kind of a thing from the Old Testament. A little bit of that here. I'm not really up on, Latter-day Saints religious texts or anything. So it could be that it's from one of those too, that there's an aspect in there. But, it is definitely like a promised land type of story that's going on here. And he's using this book and this symbol here saying, I read that there's a sea that we have to go across and take us there. One interesting difference between this and the reboot series is, Commander Adama is like the lead of this religious effort in this version of Battlestar Galactica, but in the reboot, it's more the president that doesn't exist here, and other religious figures like priests and things like that. Vision quest type people, all of that. So it's interesting how it's combined into the decision making of Commander Adama in this version of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and they definitely tied in faith, right? He brings it up a couple of times just in this one panel here. With the book and the medallion, and he's just telling Ty, we just got to have faith, man.
Which is kind of scary to me. This is very scary to see just where did this come from with this commander, like this military guy. He would not be trained to just default to following a religious text for decision making like this. Like, it almost makes you wonder if he has kind of a screw loose to a certain extent, because he just decides to do this. Right?
Yeah, you could always make that argument, especially with taking everybody into the void, right? But he's always put into positions, if you think about it, he really doesn't have a lot of choices. And we talked about, he could have gone left, you could have gone right, you could have gone up, down, because you're in space. And I was kind of making fun of the show and the comic that void is so big, you could have seen it from a long way away, but that's a little judgmental, but still, it forces the plot along anyway.
Yes, it does.
And they throw in the faith and the religion along with it. But we'll get into a lot of political intrigue as well, which this one and the reboot did. At least the reboot did that well. And as long as that ad to the left will stay down, I'll expand it as much as I can until that ad comes back up on the left. For some reason, I can't ever get that blocked. This was kind of funny here, DT. The ladies are all hanging out, right, in the pilot's lounge.
Which used to be like a boys' club before that, right?
Well, totally, 100%. There was no female pilots.
Right. So they probably had, pinups and a dartboard, and, it was probably dirty and dried ambrosia on the tables, and cigar ashes stained stuff. I can just picture it. It stinks. Something special.
Oh yeah. Other than that, with Ty maybe making them field day like we did in the Marine Corps every Thursday, it would be like that. It'd totally be like a locker room, right? It's a lounge. It's not their sleeping quarters. It's actually like a bar lounge.
Right.
So it's probably a little bit rougher than their quarters, right? It's like a bar.
And it's the officers' lounge too, to a certain point, right? Because
Yeah, it's pilots and it's only. You're not going to see
mhm,
other people in there. At least I wouldn't think so.
right.
But it's kind of funny here because all the girls they're kind of talking, hey, we say, we did this and we did that, and okay, deservedly so to a point, right? But this is
Mhm.
hilarious. This middle
Yeah,
one
oh, the
here.
second one. Yeah.
Yeah. This absolutely hilarious because if you guys in the chat notice or have read the comic, there's these musical notes there, right? And then for a second, you're like, what is going? Oh, Apollo, what did you? And you're like, plan on doing. And they're like, oh, wait a second. Apollo and Starbuck are acting like girl voices. Oh, Apollo, what are you and Serena? And then Apollo jumps right on in. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Like mocks them back.
Yeah, yeah. And they're making fun of the girls talking like girls, right? And
Mhm.
it's fracking hilarious. But it just shows you the camaraderie over and over and over again between those guys, Boomer and all of them, Starbuck and Apollo and Jolly and all of them. So the girls fire right back. But then it does, what do we always say about the show? The fun doesn't last too long, does it, JT?
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it never goes on for very long. They can't ever get a good panel or two like they could for Boxy, right? Of having fun. Maybe someday, but not right now. So again,
Right.
of course, here come the damn Cylons, right? Beep, 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 go to another alert. And it's a little bit odd how these Cylons are tracking them, right?
Mhm.
It's because they could have immediately got lost in the void going in after them. It's not really ever talked about, or I missed it, how they were able to do it, but you got to keep the plot along, and the whole plot of this whole thing is being chased by the Cylons, right?
Right.
And it's kind of just a mystery that they keep doing it, which I guess it kind of adds to some of it if you take a different approach of thinking about it. So of course Apollo and Starbuck they're going to have to go out and go on another mission, and Serena is pushing. I'm going to be your wingman. I'm your wingman. I'm your wingman.
Yeah.
I was always confused because Starbuck was never like, he would have been ahead of his own squadron, right? Boomer would have been ahead of his own squadron.
At that point, yeah.
I would have thought so, right? That Starbuck, no way, he's that good, not ahead of his own squadron. He's not going to be Apollo's wingman. Although I don't remember him ever leading a squadron, but anyway, Serena's pushing it to go out. I'll go out on this recon mission because they're getting some alerts up on the bridge. And the next thing you know, here's your Batman stuff. Shaboom. And they're like, what was that?
Well, I think it's funny because she's like, hey, battle buddy, let's, you need to go to the bathroom. Okay, I'll go to the bathroom with
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't seem like he's too into that.
No. Well, we've talked about this before too. When it's time to get serious, Apollo and Starbuck don't screw around. Even in
Mhm.
battle, though, Boomer and Starbuck sometimes will throw little quips out there, like in the show, right?
Right.
But when it's time to be serious, Apollo and they don't screw around with the lovey-dovey stuff, no matter what. I just thought it was kind of odd that Starbuck would take off in a Viper with people standing there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. He would not have done that in real life if that was real, right?
Mhm.
Not that close. But the artwork's not bad, the faces are a little bit better, right? Even in the foreground, the distant ones, they're doing a lot better. Apollo looks good here. I like these visionary angles of the fighter taking off. This one to the right next to Apollo. I like that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like when you're watching a movie and they have these different angles that you never really thought of. That's a pretty good angle for the comic, right? That he's taken off and
Yeah.
he's actually at a good little distance. I really like that. And then right underneath it, they show him coming, another one following him from a different angle. So that's pretty cool.
I love how he tries to ditch her.
Yeah, he's trying so hard.
He's trying really hard to ditch her. Like, I don't want to go to the prom with you. And she's like, I thought, you're my boyfriend. Where are we going? Kind of a
Yeah,
there I go doing the musical thing.
that was funny though, dude.
Yeah.
It's like shaboom. Yeah, if you stay out of the man cave. That's right, Gap. And that's for the men. But she doesn't take him seriously when he's being serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
You always kind of wonder if that's going to come back. But I went back and I paid attention to the helmets today. They don't have I should have known this already. Don't get mad at me. But they don't have their names on their helmets in the show. Or
Right.
at least I didn't see it. So,
well, that would cost money.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Also, it helps in the comics. You know who it is.
Yeah, that's the logical thing to do if you don't know the characters. But in issue 5, if you don't know this is Starbuck and he's talking, I don't know. Well,
Starbuck has blonde hair. Apollo has brunette hair.
Yeah.
But if this is your first issue, you may not know that.
Yeah.
Like, you just may not pick up on that. Like Dave,
Yeah.
I don't know if you were picking up on that when you just looked at it, right? That you knew that was Starbuck because he had blonde hair.
Well, but for me, I could never. That's the only logical explanation that you said, and I think you're 100% correct. That's why they did it. They did it for the comic book sake, and for people who are new, who didn't watch the show, which is a very important point. If I don't forget to go over that bulletin, that letter, so because that gets brought up, all that stuff gets brought up. Somebody called him out. His name is Dave too. How cool it would have been if I had wrote one of these like Mike did, our good buddy, Claude,
yeah, mm-hmm.
Who actually was in one of these comic books writing a letter. Did you know that?
I knew he wrote a letter in at one point, but I didn't know if it ever got in anything.
Yeah, and RIP to him. And he actually his letter got into one of these. I think somebody
really?
shut it off a while ago. Yeah, or he ordered something. Please forgive me if I don't remember it, but somebody showed it on one of the streams after he passed that he had actually made it into one of these comic books. So Serena goes, and Starbuck again a little bit. He's not thinking straight here. So it sounds a little hypocritical of me when they're serious, but he's kind of distracted here, I think, with the whole wedding and everything. And now he's a little hot under the collar when he's wanting to go do what he wants to do too. Sometimes we all know that. And he takes off a little bit, right? Now, this is where I'm going to say that the show, because I did watch that part today because I was a little confused on something about being out there in the void, right? In the show, they talk about how, well, you can't go far. Apollo's really ripping into him. You can't go out there, man. You can't go out there. It's too far. And he goes, well, you ping on my ship, or I'll ping on your ship, and you ping the Battlestar. And then she chimes in and says, oh, well, you ping on me, Apollo, and then we'll triple our distance. So that's why it was important for them to put that in here. And they didn't really do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I brought it up. So people who are reading the comic book can understand, well, they're in this void. He's going to get lost. Well, it gets worse than that.
Right.
So what do you think of him just flying off and then getting caught?
Kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. This is where I think page limit kind of ruins some of it, because as you said with the doctor, we really just fast forward through a lot of important bits, and I feel like here we're missing some stuff too. So
Yeah, and that's why I was talking a lot about the show when it became to this, because I thought the whole void thing was very important for people to not lose perspective about what was going on and how are they getting away with this. Well, that's why, because they didn't bring it up.
Mhm, mhm.
Basically, that's it. And let's see. Yeah, Gap or P. No, I haven't used OBS as a VCR. And Gap, yeah, the helmets. They've gotten better with the helmets, right, JT? Since
Yes.
who was on the Ironcaster? Yeah, Ironcaster brought up the helmet things, and he liked the colors. Initially, I didn't, but now it's grown on me. The red and the purples and stuff like that. They have to have some contrast, right, to the rest of their
Yeah, they do.
vehicles. So
They
it
do, and
makes total sense.
the shadows are better too. They didn't like, I think the first episode they just did a straight down the middle half and half on their face.
Yeah.
And this one they made some more I guess some more strategic choices. And you know that yellow with the shading is obviously sunlight too
Oh
on that.
yeah. Well, it's his. It should be more like his cockpit light, right? Because
Mhm.
you notice they make some faux pas here. They make some mistakes. If you look at here, get the frack from Starbuck because he just gets caught by the silence,
Yes.
and you're like, "Holy frack!" Starbuck of all people gets caught and captured, not just caught and killed, obviously. But if you notice in that panel, that little square panel where he says, "Oh frack," there's no lights, there's no
Mhm.
stars, there's nothing. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then when you've got the base ship here and a couple of other frames, you'll see stars, right? They didn't, the
I
continuity,
think
right?
those might be ships.
Could be ships, right? That's what I
I
was
think they
thinking.
might be, but it's hard to tell, right? Because they're just dots. It's 50-50. I'll call it a push. We don't know what the heck that is. It
All
might
right.
even be a reused image. I'd have to go back and look at other comics that might even be reused.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably is. Um, so Starbucks being a wise ass to the sidelines, which is great. But I'm assuming this is Lucifer, right?
Yes, it
In the
is.
red.
Mhm.
His head is okay. His head is jacked. He looks like a bad version of Metallo with a
Or a
silent
cone head.
eye. And I guess those are supposed to be the lights, but they're popping outside of his head instead of inside his head. They could have drawn some red stuff in his head there, red and blue and green, just
Mhm.
little dots, right? To emulate, you remember, guys, everybody, Lucifer's head, right? He's like a computer, right? It's got all the sparkly inside stuff. Um, they didn't really bother with that here. So, but they did a pretty good Cylon here. He's got the red eye uh, and there goes Starbuck
Yeah,
trying to
here you
light
go. I
it.
just sent you a link of what his head actually looks like.
Oh, will I be able to pop that up,
You should be able to.
or do you want to share that? Oh
Oh,
wow,
go for it.
yeah.
Go for it.
Share this tab instead, but I'll have to go back to StreamYard. Present screen. Oh, I don't want to.
And then you can zoom in on it. Can you
Okay.
control and scroll wheel your mouse up?
Yeah, I just remember Mark said you got to be really careful doing double sharing, but I can always go back to the other one, so I don't
Okay.
care. It's okay. I've added it to stage, so then I got to go back
Yep,
to
we
the
can see it.
link. You can see it.
Well, let me see
Yeah,
here. I'm
there you
behind the
go.
stream. Yeah, everybody
It's
can
on
see it on
YouTube.
stream.
Yeah, very nice. I don't think I can make it larger. Yeah,
There you
let's see
go.
if that worked.
That's enough. Yeah. So right here you can see what you were talking about, all the purple electronics that
Yeah,
shimmer and glow and light up and
yeah.
things. And then he's got
So
weird purple lips, but he definitely has indented red eyes.
yeah,
It's a very unique look to him.
So like we talked about before with the where Baltar was supposed to be executed, right? Obviously, we all know that was an altered ending that didn't happen to keep Baltar in the show. And when we were talking about that word execution, which I'm sure I'll bring up again, is for who, right? You got the Cylons, you had the Imperious leader. Obviously, we couldn't tell then, but you think that he's not a computer. He's an organic life form. We think back then. We know now, but when you met Lucifer, he's a computer.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to remove him. Let me stop that screen. Go back. Sorry, guys. I'll have to go back. And my laptop is not. Being very friendly. My bottom bar here.
But basically, there's different coloring at work, and they don't even bother to color his mouth or his head. So you have no idea what's going on. And they just use like the high polish glint on his head, which is not correct there. So yeah, I definitely don't give them a passing score for properly illustrating this guy, right? And it's not just an issue of you didn't acquire the likeness, like it's an act because it's a robot or an android. Well, yeah, a robot. You actually would not have a need for a likeness on that, right? Because the mask was worn anyway.
Right. I mean, they didn't even try here. It's and I'm not gonna bash him because of money and all that, but you've got some colors there. You've got purple right there at the bottom on the next paint, right? Under Starbuck. You could have just put some purple dots in there and just, I don't know. It's just weird what they do sometimes. Because
it takes away from the character because you don't know if it's a robot, right? You don't know if it's an artificial creature or an alien, because we saw a lot of aliens in the last couple comics, right? On the planet with the casino resort area, right? There were a ton of aliens there. You have no idea if this life form is even artificial.
No, not here. You would have to watch the show to know that, definitely. But I'll give him credit right back from bashing him a little bit. This is a pretty good Baltar. He's older. He's got a devious smile compared to that young one that was doing all the workouts. Remember, we were making fun of the muscles. He was ripped, and he looked like 20, right? And we were laughing about that. This is a good comic book Baltar, right?
It is.
I think so. It's very good. The fingers are done well.
It's so different. It's so different that if he didn't say that, if Starbuck didn't say Baltar in the previous pane there, then you just wouldn't know who this is.
You wouldn't know that was him. Yeah, exactly. That's an excellent point. And I don't think Lucifer introduces himself here because he's already done it in the other comics, right? If I remember correct, yeah, with Baltar himself, where they were going to kill him, execute him, public, which I think is still hilarious. So Baltar is talking to Starbuck. They're roughing him up a little bit, not too much, because he was going to try to smoke a cigar, and he lit the match off of the sidewalk. You caught that, right, JT?
Yeah, I did. I did.
That's hilarious, man. I mean, nobody could pull that off but Starbuck, dude. Like I said, just adding to the mystique, right? I'm going to give them props. I'll give them props when they deserve it, and they do it every comic. They stick to the lore, and they just keep adding to his lore over and over and over, and I'm loving it. And like you said, another excellent point, Baltar. Oh, that's Baltar. If you haven't watched the show, right? You would, you might not.
Yes.
Know. Not by that face, anyway.
So this next page is quite spicy.
Yes.
I was a little distracted when you asked me that question because I saw the first little bit of this. I'm like, whoa. So, yeah. Yeah,
go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so later aboard here, I'll narrate this one, I guess. So, because, well, anyway. And so later aboard the Galactica, it says, I just can't believe Starbuck's gone from Apollo. And then she says, Apollo, I loved him too. That's why I think he would understand and approve Apollo says, understand and approve of what? Apollo, marry me now, please. Like that's a little forward, I guess. And he says, now, right in the middle of what? A disaster avoided, endless night? I don't care.
Right.
I just want every moment we have left. And then there's a little you know, I don't know if they have a Battlestar Galactica word for that, but they're smoochy smooching while on
yeah.
duty, by the way. PDA while on duty. The UCMJ,
Yeah.
I think, has a little bit to say about this little shot, but hey, especially as an officer, you may
Yeah.
be facing court martial for this. Who knows? Who knows? But they need
Yeah.
pilots, so something tells me they're not going to be talking to the JAGs anytime soon. So,
Well, you think to the future it's going to cause problems because she didn't stay when he told her to stay as a leader, as a commander. He told her to stay and she took off anyway, which is something Starbuck would have done. You can make that argument all you want, but she still didn't do it either. Right. And, but yeah, you can see some stuff might happen. So they get married, everybody, right then and there. Not digging their artwork here. I can tell you that. The flame thing, they're candles, right? Everybody's holding up candles, and it's really nice little thing. Could have just done a close up with some people around.
yeah, the perspective is way off. Why have all these candles?
Yeah,
Put some candles behind them because we don't even know what the hell is behind them.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but they get married. Okay, and then they're still getting married. Adama's doing the ceremony.
What I find funny here, and this might be the 70s, if you're reading that first pane, these are supposed to be polytheistic people, right?
Yeah.
One for each of the tribes and all of this. And they say like by the gods and things like that, right? But then here, when he's doing this official ceremony under the eyes of God, which I don't know if that was the 70s being the 70s and we can't have this polytheism that in your face here, but they switched to monotheism right away for this scene.
Yeah. It's a little odd how they handle some of it and stuff like that.
I know it's a touchy topic to have on YouTube. I know, but
no,
there is that.
It's in the show. It's in the comic.
Change in the show and in the comic, right?
Yeah, there is. And then out of nowhere, right when they're getting married, boom! There's that star. It just shows up, and they're like, "Oh, it's the end of the void," which is pretty cool, right? Because they actually found a star that Sir Yuri Sire, whatever it was, is always trying to undermine him because he thinks he's absolutely a lunatic, right? And he's trying to convince everybody else that Adama's a lunatic. And like you said, there's people who do think, a lot of people think he's a lunatic, but they don't have much choice to follow him. And he's always been good with his word up to the point. And so you're like, oh my God, this is great. They found the star, because sometimes you probably thought they might veer off into a different direction. They might run into something else like they did in the show, right?
Right.
Speaking of religion and all that, but I won't spoil that one. A really big heaven reference and angels and stuff like that, right? From the show.
My thing is, I try to think of this void as almost like an inkwell in space, because if you can't navigate it and you can't see light behind it and all of this stuff, then it's more like a nebula almost, but it's made of nothing. So it's weird. So I like to think of it as like an ink blot or a puddle of ink in space. And so when you find this star, you're kind of looking at the edge of it. Okay, that can work, but suns, stars, they have a lot of radiation, whether that be heat, light, gamma rays, all kinds of nasty stuff, right? Wouldn't you see this inkwell kind of heating up in a certain direction long before anything else. Like even if you didn't
Yeah,
see the light, you would just have like an infrared or some type of sensor that would say like there's something we're detecting over there.
well, but it's also the star and the planet Cobalt are the same, right? So how's that possible? Am I way off here? Because it
I
says right here,
well
if I'm right, it's the planet Cobalt. I'm like, can't be
might be
both.
orbiting the star.
Yeah, yeah. They don't make a distinction here.
No, they say in the next one
Good.
below it.
When
See
the
that this is
documents
kind of they needed an arrow to point you down, then point you right. Yeah, the navigation on
they
this
do.
page.
Okay, my mistake.
Search
They
for a
did.
planet in an elliptical orbit, 1 to 3 quads.
I
from the
missed that
star.
when I read this earlier. Yeah,
Mhm.
make note of that. My apologies. Because now that makes sense, right? It can't be both. It can't be a star and the planet at the same time. Yeah, I was going to say, wow, what did they miss? It wasn't them, it was me.
And this shot next to it is what in Adama's head. It's an imaginary image in his head.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those scenes that maybe, do you remember when Baltar was on Caprica? And I was like, no, they went down there. It was kind of like a flashback type of thing. This is like maybe it's either in his head or it's a forward flash that he's there. Right? That they went down. They found it, they went down, and they skipped all the part of traveling down there. Right?
Which is weird because you don't really know where the context of this. I think it's an image in his head.
Yeah, it could be.
Viewing this not as the TV show, but if I'm just reading this seems like a make-believe imagination of what he thinks will be found there. But then why is he imagining ruins? I also don't know that. So there's just a lot of mystery to be uncovered.
Yeah, and on the show they have them outside walking up like Stargate. Remember they were outside the pyramids and stuff. They do have them walking up with a bunch of pillars, and it was a pretty good scene because they were outside walking on a planet and not stuck on a ship somewhere. You don't get that very often in the first, in the TV show at all, unless you know what I mean. Wide open shots.
And Gap After Dark disagrees. It's not in his head, and they should have had a few panels to explain. Right. And unfortunately, we just don't get that. So I have to fill it in with what I think might have happened if I never saw the TV episode that this is based on. Right.
Yeah. And that's where in this one particular instance, in a couple, like you said, that last comic we did last week, they really hurried it up. I was really mad about that. Because they left out a lot.
Scrolling down, the reader will learn. But this is part of the reason why I did not read ahead, is because you wouldn't get that right at this level of detail. I would have to write down, I wonder what that is. And I don't like writing notes after college. I'm kind of done with that. So anyway, so elsewhere you go back to the base star, right? So a curious development. This one will, I'm sure, take you by surprise. Then, of course, we've still got attitude here. We've still got attitude from Starbuck, right?
Yeah, well, this is where he does call him Lucifer to kind of catch up that's Lucifer, if you didn't know. Yeah. But Baltar's attitude, nothing surprises me type of thing, right?
What the hell is he wearing here, by the way?
I don't know what that is, man. I was hoping you could tell me.
He looks like Superman, but like Eclipse Man.
Are you talking about the green?
Yeah.
Well,
he's wearing like a leisure suit on the left. And then like in the next one over, it's
like a 1920s Green Lantern that they thought maybe they were going to use that for you know what I mean? Like like you said, a superhero uniform from the 1910s or something, when they were coming up with ideas. But it looks like a hole in his chest, right? Looks like somebody blasted him with a laser rifle or something.
But that could be Baltar too. We don't know.
Yeah, that's supposed to be Baltar here in the green.
But you don't know that because of how horribly the face is done.
Yeah, with those weird hands. This might have been a panel that I would have looked at and said, no, redraw that or do something else. Because
Make the one right below it bigger.
Yeah,
because none of
the
this
one below it.
exposition do you actually need. The trap is about to be sprung, my good friend. Prepare my craft, I go alone, for only I can deliver the Galactica to our imperious leader.
Yeah,
right.
And that's not a bad little panel there.
Cap says that panel is weird. Putin's cat says, "Is that the Hulk?"
Yeah, it's just like, so they just do these weird things in this comics. And we've seen it time and time again. They'll have some good stuff, some okay stuff, and then just some really weird. I think it's this decision making. I don't know.
Well, who do we put it on? Because it was presented by Stan Lee, and you know how I feel and how Cloudy felt about Stan Lee. So
yeah, well, Jim Shooter's the editor.
Yeah,
but when we get to that article, I don't even know if we'll get to number 2 because we're going to talk about that article. I mean, number 6, unless it's in number 6. I can't remember. I wrote it down. I'm not going to look for it because we'll get to it sooner or later. Decision making, why it's made, why and how they don't do certain things when we say, hey, why in the heck? Hungry Boy in that other video really dives into a lot of that stuff. That was a pretty good video.
So now all of a sudden, I remember this when I read it long ago now. It's coming back to, not long ago, like a year ago. It's coming back to me. They skip. So on this page, on the surface of the planet, so you were just supposed to know that the page above, that they were all the way on the planet, and they had already skipped all the travel there, all the landing. Had they scanned it to see if it's actually safe? Do you see any life signs? You know, any discussion that you know would actually happen? All that just got cut, so they could put.
I can't remember. I can't remember if it was the show or in the comic that it was actually the Cylons saying they were down on the planet. They called it lifeless.
Here in the book, they tell Starbuck that.
Okay, so it's in the comic. I get them mixed up. Actually beginning to think I shouldn't watch both, but I do it so I have context, right? But it gets me a little mixed up sometimes for things like that. The comic does that.
No worry. That's why you got me here.
in the chat too, to keep us straight. That panel is definitely.
You need a Colonel Ty to help back you up. So
a lot of exposition going on here, but this is the scene that's in the show. They're walking through, and it's a wide open shot. They should have done a lot more wide open here, but again, we're not making the comic. So, and this is almost word for word. I wonder what the city was called, and it was a good scene where they're talking about it. And Adama, you can really feel how excited he is, how the mystique and the religion and the hope that he could have found this place and all that's really building up, both in the comic and in the show, but mostly in the show too, right?
Yes. Now they are going into a tomb. So behind this door leads to the 9th Lord of Kobol, the last Lord of Kobol, before they left on the diaspora. So, or diaspora, however you want to put the emphasis there. And then resting in peace, enter on pain of death. So bum, bum, bum. They have some excitement here. And then the door swings open. Usually I wouldn't just walk in without a spacesuit on, instant death. Maybe I'd be a little more casual about this, or not casual about this. I've seen too many of the Alien Prometheus movies, right?
How about any sci-fi movie that we've ever watched? Sooner or later, just opening doors where at least the Cylons, like they said, they told Starbuck it was lifeless, right? That doesn't always make it true, right? Star Trek people.
Exactly.
And countless sci-fi movies. So they go in, and then we have our bad torch people thing again. They can't help themselves with these torches. But
the big reveal, that lower speech bubble.
Yeah.
A world our ancient history names as Earth. I can't narrate it as well as they did in the TV show. That narrator did an awesome job.
No, was that John Calicos that did that monologues part?
Oh, you're asking me names of people? That's like
Who did the voice? Who did the voice of that part that I always love at the beginning of Battlestar Galactica? Does anybody know out there? Star Trek people. Yeah, right. Yeah. We all know you're supposed to scan the planet.
Patrick McNee.
Patrick McNee. Okay. I always thought
there's two different ones. Patrick McNee.
And Calicos, I thought did part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two different versions that start off the same, but they end differently.
The closing was Lauren Green.
Was it Lauren Green? Oh wow!
But not in all of them. They don't do every episode.
No. You get to see some Egyptian hieroglyphic type stuff that was on. That's why I wanted to see more of that walking up on the pillars, walking in. You get more of that mystique of the ancient religion and how they drew and all that stuff and communicated. But guess who's here, everybody? Dun dun dun! Our old friend Baltar shows up wearing a whole weird, like would you say, tracksuit?
Yes, a leisure suit almost. Yeah,
a leisure suit with a vest. But interesting enough, look what he's wearing. The gold there. You know what
he's
that is, right?
Too. It's a thing that opens up the door, right?
Well, yeah, but yeah, we'll get to it. I won't leave you hanging. So this is a good one. Adama gives him a good Batman Kathak punch, knocks him on his ass.
Who
I'm surprised
Commander Adama de-ages his body like 40 years for this punch.
Yeah, and a left hook too.
Yeah. I mean, it's like he almost wound up, you know, for that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. A good thing for Baltar, though, that Starbuck wasn't there, right? Because he probably would have got a few kicks while he was down. Even who cares? Right?
Well, who's to say a Cylon doesn't? Two Cylons don't have Starbuck hit, you know, with a laser pew pew to his temple, just hiding behind somewhere. And then Baltar's like, "Oh no! I bet you want your pilot back," or you know, like evils it up even another step.
But, yeah, who knows what this guy is up to, right? Based on the comic that we're reading. So Obama, why do I always do that? This is the politics.
They're both leaders.
I gotta stop watching stuff before, like an hour or two before I come in. Just all Battlestar Galactica, Apollo. I've done that a couple times with Adama and Apollo. So he's laying into him, and Baltar just starts spewing all his junk. What does he say here? Are you completely mad? What sane human being would do that? Talking about trying to wipe out the whole human race. Well, you would, buddy, because you want to. Now that's not technically true, right? He wanted some of them to live,
right? So he could be the ruler of the remnant. Yes.
Yeah, he wanted
but he doesn't know that
planet.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah, I think that's still good enough to, throw you into a Sarlacc pit.
How could you think he's so evil?
Yeah, well, because you are. You're one of the worst ever.
I too hold the seal of the Lords.
Yeah. So if you forgot or didn't know, he's a council member. Baltar, right? Probably got lost in the sauce since the very, very beginning of the first episode in the first comic, right? That this guy was high up. He was high up on the council as well, just like a dog.
Convenient story.
Yeah, he comes up with some BS about being at the battle and he's stuck and he got caught right.
And I'm making a deal because they wanted a puppet, so I agreed to be their puppet with a gun to my head, right? And but I'm really on your side. I'm your best friend. Don't mind all these toasters that just do whatever I tell them to do.
Right. and which I think is kind of weird because, well, ooh, I almost spoiled alert a little bit because I know what's going to happen with, because you already kind of mentioned it, what's going to happen, and that would have spilled the beans on his plan of what he's telling Adama now, and he's not really falling for it anyway. He's like, well, apparently they found you innocent, a friend of the Cylons, so he's not really listening to this. But this dude's pretty good. He reminds me of the guy in Lord of the Rings on Theoden. What was his snake tongue, worm tongue? Guys, help me out. It's another one I should know, right? I think it's worm
From
tongue.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Theoden.
It's worm tongue.
Worm tongue. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
He was really good at that kind of crap. So Baltar kind of tells on himself a little. You know, I've been to the seat of power. I'm not really going to read all this because it takes way too long, but he does. That's kind of key that he lets on that, right, JT? I mean, I don't know. I guess he's trying to explain how he's able to be where he is, right?
He's trying. Yeah, he's trying.
Yeah. And then he's trying to convince them that they want to make a deal or something like that, right?
Yeah, and he's like, so to show you I'm a good guy, here's your pilot back.
Yeah.
And of course, you have the Cylons listening in and ready for the counter attack.
Yeah, Lucifer is not dealing with this much with Baltar, and he's got his own plan. And I like these Cylons, this up close Cylon right here. They didn't do the sparkly thing that much though, right? I like, where's my sparkly shiny? Remember how they used to do that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Why is his mouth here? If you scroll down a little bit.
Let's see where we at. Yeah, because then I wanted to touch on the Lucifer head again. They actually tried here to emulate the picture that you showed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that whole face, that mouth, that nose and mouth, I don't know. They tried better. The eyes, the glowing eyes, and the multicolored lights that are in his head. I don't know why they didn't just put it in the head. I guess maybe it wouldn't look right to them. But Lucifer has his own plans, and he's actually going to double cross Baltar here. And we could care less as long as, right? As long as Baltar gets what he gets and our guys get away and Starbuck gets free. So that's all we care about, right? And they do. Lucifer comes through actually. Because for a second there, you're kind of wondering, is he going to let Starbuck go? What's he doing with Baltar? He's stabbing him in the back here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not sure if he's going to let Starbuck go, but he did. I don't know. Whatever. It worked. It was great. Starbuck comes back and he's already got 3 ladies. It's like, okay. All right.
He's a ladies' man. What can you say?
Yeah. I'm assuming that's Athena, but they don't say right there, right?
No.
So Starbuck gets back safely. He reunites and he's telling them that Baltar's trying to offer peace. And can you believe it? No, nobody believes that, dude. And I know you don't really, but he's probably just happy to get the hell out of there, right?
Yeah.
So, let's see. We're back inside the pyramids.
So they're like, okay, we got to get out of here, find what we need and ditch. And then the light is coming in through this square hole in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some kind of eclipse or, that kind of Indiana Jones type thing where the sun has to go perfectly against the wall kind of an appearance. Ooh. So the star is shining down and it's striking these medallions. And then you see in the very next one at the bottom of the page that Adama and Baltar. And is there a third medallion? Or is it just
Well,
shining in on somebody?
I was going to say hi to J-Man. He stopped by to say hello.
Hey, J-Man.
And did something kind of funny. That was funny. He gave me sparkles in the chat. You guys are great. Yeah, so Adama and Baltar have a medallion, and you're right, but Adama wants to look around. He's found it now, right? He wants to get the information to get to Earth, and like you said, but Baltar is like, we all could die here unless I give the appearance that I delivered you. He's just plotting, and Adama's just not really giving a crap right now, really. I don't think.
Yeah.
But the third thing is, I don't know what that is. Do you? You were saying you weren't sure. Can you guess? Or
I'm almost wondering if it's a statue on the right hand side.
Yeah,
and that's Adama in the center and Baltar on the left. But it's hard to tell, or maybe they're both statues in the front, and that is just that's just Adama in the front.
Yeah,
it leaves some to the imagination.
Yeah, I didn't. I skipped over a lot of that because I remembered most of this when I went and watched the show.
So the crypt opens. The crypt opens to a stairwell down there, and they get down in there, and then they say, "By the gods," even though, so now you're back to the polytheism. It's the crypt of the Ninth Lord. Okay. And then you go to the right, and then you go down. So you dare defile the holy crypt is what it looks like Apollo says to Baltar here. And Baltar says, "Do you think I actually believe in all that nonsense?" And he grabs for the item because he's never seen Indiana Jones. You don't just start touching stuff, right?
Right? Or
and of course, that's the first thing he does.
He acts so rash here. You would have thought that he might, after the door opened and saw this, you would have thought that even in the show, he would have been like, "Wait a second, is this real? Because we keep finding more stuff, right?" And it's almost like Adama is right, but he just acts so rashly. Again, it's to move the plot along. We get it. If you watch the show,
we don't really know what this is that he's grabbing. The way it's illustrated,
yeah, it's his scepter, and then it opens, and there's a mummy there, right? I guess if you follow it down and to the right, he grabs the scepter off the top of the tomb, and then it opens.
Egyptians used to hold a crook and flail, so
some kind of
is that a
scepter or something?
Crook?
I'm not a scepter, but
it looks, I guess, it could be a crook, maybe. It looks like a shepherd's hook kind of a thing as a crook, right? And then a flail is easy enough to see. But we don't really get a good picture of it.
Yeah, and again, you would think that Baltar, I don't believe in all this premise. It's right. It's right in front of you, though, man. I mean, I guess he's just like that. So he grabs it. And just like Indiana Jones and every other type of movie that's like that, something bad happens, right? Something starts falling. And normally it's the whole place, right? In the same here, the whole place starts going. It's like,
oh yeah,
but it is an ancient curse come true. Oh, and then Baltar's like, superstition, what? No, it was, now he's trying to, I meant no harm. Well, who are you apologizing to? You didn't believe it a second ago. Now you believe it? Because you just brought the whole place down, and he's so devious. You might have thought he did it on purpose, just in case it was real, right? You never know with Baltar, right? That's another angle to look at it. Up for debate type of stuff, right? That he did it, hoping something. He didn't want them to find it. He doesn't want Adama to find it. So the Cylons launch an attack, which caught him off guard. A little odd there.
Well, they knew it was coming. They knew they were on a ticking clock.
They knew it was coming, so they were getting back to the ships and stuff like that. But Starbuck's like, "You girls can't fly."
Athena. Here he does say it's Athena.
Yeah, Yeah, he does here. And she's got long, luscious red Sonya hair all of a sudden, right? But
Yeah.
here then, if Starbuck doesn't know what's really going on here, right? Is my timeline messed up that he was gone that long? That he helped train them. So he's like, well, you barely know how to fly. We're warriors now. Well, he wasn't gone that long, and they haven't been in that many
Hard
battles.
to say.
It's hard to say. Yeah.
He was captured in the first battle, so all he knows is like the first 5 seconds of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he went off on his own. He got caught completely on his own. So they all left. She's actually telling him, we don't have time to argue, basically. And I love this little shot, another one of those good angle vision shots of the outside of the Cylon Raider looking in here to the right.
Yeah.
Inform Lucifer the humans have launched Squadron. And of course, they have attitude again, right, JT? Insufficient numbers to cause any great concern. Right. It's a tactical thing, but it's the way it comes off. It's like they have ego too, right? Tactically, they could have said insufficient numbers, don't worry about it, but they almost sound like Daleks, right? With a little bit of an ego, with a little bit of an ego.
And I just that's a great. They're really getting the shots of the Vipers down with a lot of just sense of speed and the violence of the combat too. So I'm really liking their growth in this area from maybe the first couple episodes, first couple books.
Yeah, the first 2 issues, the Vipers, maybe you only get a kind of a decent one every now and then, depending on the way you want to look at it. But they've definitely gotten better. Like you said, there's a lot of action going on here. It's nice. It's good. It's good. I mean, it's the underside of the Viper, but who cares? on this scene, there's a lot of shooting and blasting going on. And then here you go. Then they've got this with Tide.
Then the female pilots get to come in and save them.
Yeah, and this was a great line though. So Ty is like, okay, what are we doing? Oh, they're launched, and like you said, the ladies come in and say, well, it's not the ladies actually. You're talking about the one to the right here?
Yeah.
That's the guys coming from sickbay.
Is it?
Yeah, so they're on the Galactica, right? While the fighting is going on. So it's Apollo is with Serena and Adama on the planet, right? Starbuck and the ladies are launching off the planet to go fight.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to get it straight myself.
Although it's hard to tell by how they illustrated all of this because the detail is non-existent. In fact, they didn't even finish the one that's talking. You see that? Yeah. He's not wearing any boots.
Yeah, well, the
artwork
on foreground characters are not good sometimes.
But they didn't color the boots on.
They didn't color the boots.
Yeah.
And I think it's important in comics that you do read all the boxes and stuff too, right? Because I missed it the one point earlier. And then here it does go back and say, well, while on the Battlestar's bridge. So if you glance over, you completely, and you can look at it, and then you can say, okay, I guess that's Ty, right? It's not Boomer, because he's wearing a command uniform and not a warrior uniform. But they're up there, and these guys show up. He's like, Blue Squad, you guys can barely stand. And they say, well, the Viper's flown from the seated position, girl.
Yeah.
That's a total iconic badass line right there. And then back to the planet for our time space continuum. They're still down in the basement, basically. So not only in the pyramid, but they're in the lower part of the pyramid.
Yeah, they're in the crypt.
Crypt, yeah. Yes, thank you.
So they basically I've laughed because I think it's Apollo, because you can't tell by the hair nor by the illustration, but father, so I guess it is Apollo, right? That sounds like a 50 megaton blast. I guess there's a specific sound that a blast makes when it reaches 50 megatons.
I don't know about you guys, but 50 megaton probably would have leveled at least most of that pyramid.
The entire area. I mean, you're talking like Zarbamba levels, where like you're gonna measure that radius in like dozens of square miles, if not more.
Yeah, it's a little confusing because I guess the Cylons were trying to bomb the fighters while they were on the ground instead of just pew-pewing them with the blasters. But anyway, 50 megaton sounds a little bit overdone. But yeah, in the comments, it's the sick dudes, Putin's cat. Yeah, they were. It was the sick guys that they got better, or at least a little bit. But Adama's fully engrossed in reading all this stuff, right? He's got to get. And what do we say? You can never have time. You never have any peace, right? Anytime something good happens, what happens? Immediately something bad. So now he's getting pressed for time here. He's not going to have time, right? You just know it's coming. He's getting some information. And then the blasts are getting close to this temple. Baltar, he's having some kind of seizure there. I don't know what he's doing. He's like, and then so he's like, no, he's mad because they launched that attack and ruined his plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he knows he got double crossed here or stabbed in the back. They're getting in a bad situation here.
Everything's destroyed.
Yeah, Apollo's like, we got to get the frack out of here, Father. We have to go. And he's like, no, and the writings are all gone. You feel for him a lot here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good, interesting plot twist, right? You got it right there. Yeah, it's gone. Got to have some more episodes now. Can't find Earth that quick, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it was a good way to do it, I think, because you can feel for him that it's right there and you can't get all of it. You got some of it. And Baltar gets trapped. Everybody cheers. And they're like, you can't leave me here. Like, okay, whatever, dude. See ya. And they leave his sorry ass in the rocks. And then back up to fighting with Starbuck. And do you notice what's on his Viper pilot? I mean, on his Viper, right underneath his helmet?
All of the what do you mean right under his helmet? The blonde hair?
Well, no.
Or on the Viper itself.
Outside on the Viper.
He's got his Cylon kills painted on the Viper.
He's got a lot more than that, I can tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's all down the whole side. I don't quite remember.
It might have gone down instead of across. Who knows?
Yeah. He's probably got like 1,000. If he was playing high school football, he had stickers all over that helmet, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So we may be outnumbered. They're always outnumbered. But Starbuck's up there fighting. He takes out a couple, and the ladies do pretty well. They do a great job. Boomer shows up with the other squad to help out. That's what saves him, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the other squadron showed up, the Cylons are getting wasted, and whatever's left, they leave. And they don't chase, which I guess is a good idea here. And I'm not sure. As soon as I check on a few, I guess he lands back down on the planet. I don't know this last little square here. I'm going to check on a few friends. I guess they land.
He does land on the planet after they delete all of the Cylon raiders.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was like, what? He went back to the planet? Okay. So Stan's soapbox, he's talking about Project X.
Mm-hmm.
He's building up a comic that they don't have out yet, as we like to go in on sometimes. There's another surprise. This Marvel Fun and Games. I wish Mark was here, or Clobby, who would have probably known all about that. I don't know anything about this one.
Marvel Fun and Games #1.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting enough, there's some stuff in here like Conan the Barbarian already had 100 issues, which was an interesting. I was like, oh wow,
Looks like
100
it's
issues.
crossword puzzles, word searches, number games, that type of thing, but with probably some comic themes.
Yeah,
in
it
it.
says, let's see, word games and puzzles. You're right. Riddles and surprises. All you need is a pencil. Okay, so you're right, James. Games and fun stuff. It'd be kind of cool to have one of those where nobody's actually done anything in it yet. That would be cool.
You might be able to find it on the interwebs.
Yeah, I wonder how much that would cost unwritten in.
Oh, I mean, like somebody scanned all the pages digitally, so you could like print them off and do all the puzzles without having to ruin the book.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Let's see. That's an interesting idea.
Another ad for Fantastic Four with Herbie.
Yeah, and that was interesting to find out last week. Mark filled us in. That was because they didn't want to have Flame Boy on fire, right? They didn't want to show it.
Have kids hurt themselves. Yeah.
This is interesting. Although I could almost make a case for that, for them doing that, but it's already too late. They created the character. But anyway,
and they're saying, of course they're celebrating too early. You're like, no, there's like at least 1 or 2 more pages, and you've got to get the suspense point here. So they're saying it looks like we're gonna have our happy life together after all. I can't wait. And then he doesn't hear the mechanical sound behind him. Look out! Slack. No.
Yeah, bad juju there, man. Bad scene. Serena gets shot in the back. They don't show them all getting out of the pyramid or the tomb to begin with, so they're just standing there. They needed another panel of them, at least one panel of them showing them standing outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I go back, guys, did I miss that? No, of course not. You missed that.
Good, huh?
Just
a little bit more. One more.
Yeah. I'm going back down to, I'm waiting for it to hit on the YouTube side. There you go. There's the two Cylons. Is that what the one you want to see?
Oh, there's one more pane at the bottom.
Okay.
So
there's 2 Cylons there. They shoot her in the back. Starbuck takes them out. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't know they were here. I thought they left.
They didn't secure their perimeter very well, did they?
No. And they didn't even show them standing outside like they would have been in there.
Oh, yeah, because they didn't finish the background.
Yeah. They didn't do that.
I guess you could say they were looking up at the sky in that picture, but that's convenient.
Yeah, well, they were all hanging outside trying to figure out where they were going to go, and they got out, and then they just shoot her, right?
Well, they get them at the black sky. Then he's looking down, but then it's black again. Then you go to the Cylons, and it's blue. Then you go down to the wreckage of the Cylons, it's purple. And then you go down to the final one, and it's like, I guess, regular atmosphere.
Yeah.
What time of day does any of this take place? It's
I don't know. It's
my
like
favorite
weird because if they were outside, it would have been dark at this point. I would think
you would still have the star showing, but it would be, I don't know. Would it be black? It's hard to tell because you don't know what time of day it is in any of these other shots either.
Yeah, it's.
I'm going to go with they didn't finish coloring things correctly.
Yeah. And one of my favorites, Jane Seymour. Man, come on, dude. Anyway, I just remember it sucked when I was watching the show, being young, and then they doing that. It was a shock, really, right?
Right.
I mean, it really was. It was like one of the biggest. I was like, oh my God, did they just really do that?
They
Oh, they
did.
did.
They
They
did.
And so I think this is the one, Dave. Yeah. So this guy, Dave, writes in, and I'm going to talk about this for a little bit here, this Battlestar Bulletin, although it's quite lengthy. This guy, Dave, he writes Rog and Ernie. They're Roger McKenzie, Walt Simonson. They're all part of the art and production of the comic.
Would you like me to read it for you?
Yeah, if you want to touch on what Dave wrote here, right under the Dear Raj and Ernie part. Yeah, it's a very.
Okay. I'll read. Cool. I'll read the letter, and then you can read the response or what else you want to say. That work?
Yeah, sure. Because cool. it really touches on everything you and I have said.
Okay, so it says, Dear Raj and Ernie, although I credited you with the ingenuity of adding scenes to the super special version to smooth out our inconsistencies, as I stated in my previous letter, I really felt that Ernie's art was too rough for the book to be visually enjoyable. To you, Ernie, my deepest and sincerest apologies. BSG number 2 was a brilliant production, adding immensely to the continuity of the television show and the novel by not merely adding scenes to some culled from the super special, but redoing everything. Ernie, your art really shone. No longer do I cry for a new inker. You ink your pencils as well as anyone I could suggest. The added scenes lengthened and redrawn made me feel that I was watching a rerun of the movie itself. And what dialogue? I mean, Roger, you could really write. The wording of issue number 2 stayed meticulously close to that of the novel and the movie and immeasurably increased the overall enhancement. Strong praise, perhaps, but well earned. I even enjoyed Ernie's fine calligraphy. Now, how about giving the women aboard the Galactica a bigger role? David Morrison, Pauls Valley, Oklahoma.
Yeah. And yeah, so he touched on the inconsistencies that we've all been talking on. I don't know if the art got that much better in number 2. To be honest,
it did some, but we still had issues with it.
Some of the ones that we didn't like me with the Imperious Leader, and who was it? Colonel Ty Boomer. Oh, Jolly. Oh my God! Don't let me forget that one. That didn't get better until 4, right? 3 or 4. So I guess he meant overall, like the Vipers and stuff like that. Well, they answered him, and I think, and he goes, "Yeah, Athena, in fact, will play more of a role." But they had to be careful here because I don't know if they want to like spoiler too much. Well, I'll skip through. Yeah, okay. So we're glad that you and most of our readers, it would seem, enjoyed Ernie's work on the Super Special. That's a different comic, right? And the first 3 issues of this magazine, which we all know now was pretty much strictly to the show.
Yes.
And even most of 4. He worked under adverse conditions, to be sure, but he managed to turn out a yeoman's job nonetheless. So they're touching on a little of the things that we talk about when we're knocking them, right? Well, why didn't they do this? Why did that? And most of the time we say it's because time, money, right? Placement. And we all know that. We won't let them get away with some of the stuff, but most of it we understand why. Especially if Hungry was here, he could touch on more of it. To make matters worse, the deadline was very tight. So there you go, JD. Yes. They straight up tell the guy. Ernie and I worked literally night and day to get the job completed as the dread deadline doom loomed over our heads more surely than the threat of silence. And that is something that Hungry Boy really touched on when we talked to him about all that stuff, trying to get it together. Get the comic together, and what happens when you've got something really, really bad and you know it's bad, but you leave it in anyway because you're like, we don't have time.
Right.
Which is still a little weird, but I guess that's just the way it goes. And then it gets really interesting. And to further compound our problems, neither Ernie or I had the opportunity to view an advanced screening of the movie.
Wow. Which is so devastating. How can you?
Wow. What does everybody think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in the chat, how do you do it? So, okay, well,
For
they'll
example,
explain it.
Ernie was halfway through the completion of the art for the super special before either of us knew that Colonel Ty was black. It simply wasn't mentioned in the script. So,
Wow.
which does matter when you're trying to draw, right?
Well, yeah, when you've got one of the main characters, Colonel Ty, and you're drawing him, what are you going to do? I mean, you don't know what he looks like.
Hmm.
It's so weird, right? But eventually we got the book done, and I'm guaranteeing you. Well, okay, so we got the book done, and I left town a few days for a much needed rest. That was a mistake because I can guarantee you that he probably wanted to go back and fix some of the stuff that we're all talking about, right?
Right.
Um, so when I returned to 575 Madison, the headquarters there, much to my chagrin, that the script Ernie and I had worked from had been revised. I'm not sure by who. He didn't want to throw it out there, but
Right.
I guess he's talking about. I guess he's the super special comic or the script that he was doing for these that we're doing.
The
Because
script for
that
the movie was revised.
okay. So that's why in the super special, some scenes just don't. Okay, yeah, you're right. So the super special that they did don't jibe with the opening episode of the TV show. Okay, and obviously I don't have that super special. I'll have to get my hands on it. Maybe I will. Okay, so this goes along with a lot of the things we're talking about. They don't have time. Things are getting changed, and they're not even let in on some of the most important factors. Like Serena's wasn't her original name, and that she wasn't supposed to die the way she was in this one. She was supposed to die from radiation poisoning and Baltar not being killed because JT, you brought this up that he was killed. Well, that was an alternate ending. Well, for that episode, right?
Right.
And here he says, and of course, it was too late for us to make any changes in the super special. It was already going to press. So now you've got this going in with stuff that doesn't even make sense to the first episode of the show, right? And they know it, and they're like, "Oh boy, well, you got to send it in."
Right.
We also learned that Battlestar was to become a regular monthly comic, and the first 3 issues were already due.
I just wanted to interrupt you real quick, Dave.
Yeah.
Gap saying, great review of issue 5. I'll catch the replay of issue 6. It's time for bed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Gap. I appreciate you being here. Sorry it took so long to get into 6, but I just really wanted to talk about this part here. I thought it was important to how the comics were made and what we've been talking about. And I appreciate you being here as always. Thank you.
Now, basically what they're saying, to summarize, they learned that it was going to be a monthly, and they wanted to make 3 issues 1 through 3, and they had to basically restart from the beginning and throw out almost all their original artwork because it didn't match what was anything like on screen. So
for the super special, yeah. And then they now on top of that, JT, they also wanted the first 3 issues due of this comic that we're doing before they even knew it was going to be a monthly.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to change the way you draw things and how you want to put it together, like we all talked about in that other video. Plans at that time called for Ernie and me to produce 20 pages of new material to flesh out our original version into 3 17-page. They didn't make 3 7. No way. No way you're going to make 17 pages to fit that in, right?
Right.
It was a nice idea on paper, but in actual practice, it quickly became apparent that it wasn't going to work. I could have told you that, right? So they had to go back and, like you said, redo it. They're already behind. We worked night and day. That was something that Hungry talked about, that he had spent 3 days sometimes, no sleep, trying to get something done, and managed to get the first 3 issues in near record, not without mistakes, I'll grant, but all things considered. So I thought that was very important, so that when people are saying, "Oh, you're kind of bashing a little bit," we don't bash that hard. We only bash when it's important. I think, right? Like with Jolly, I'll never let that one go. So what do you think about that? That was from Roger.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical. I mean, I don't have any reason to say that the story is absolutely false, but maybe a little bit of hyperbole. Who knows? I don't know what the actual dates were, so I can't confirm the veracity of their story.
They're going to be in 79, 78, 79. Yeah, 79, somewhere around there.
Oh, you mean the characters? Sorry, I thought you meant the letter.
The letter would have been about the same time. So it was published in episode or comic number 5, and the guy Dave was referring to number 2. The artwork, he said it was a lot better than number 1 or something like that. So I have to come back here. Are we going to move on to number 6? Or...
Yeah, we can do. Well, depends what you want to do. If you would like to do,
yeah,
6,
I mean, I can absolutely do number 6. Let me move it down here, and then I've got to go.
This is not my favorite cover, by the way. And once again, the title of the issue does not match what was in the previous issue.
If everybody will forgive me, let me grab some more water.
Sure.
Real quick.
Sure. So at the bottom of issue 5, everyone, the name for the next issue was The Memory Machine, an all-new action epic. So for this one, it's not quite scrolled down, but the title of this one is called Nightmare. So similar yet different. Same type of thing that we had in the last one. We have the fleet once again over what looks like Cobalt.
All right. Sorry, everybody. I already went through one whole cup. JT doing all this.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So we had what looks like the fleet was Cobalt. I talked about how the title of Nightmare is different from Mind Machine.
Mm-hmm.
In the last issue, once again, they changed it. This is not my favorite cover. I just feel like it's not inspired. Standard poses.
Yeah. Well, you notice
it doesn't
they
do it for me.
changed-
I can't really put a finger on it. It just doesn't do it for me.
If you look up under the Marvel Comics group, the block, it says something a little bit different here.
No episode.
Yeah.
No specific episode for Glenn Larson.
No specific episodes. Dun dun dun. Spoiler alert's coming. Well, foreshadowing, I should say, right? So now it just says based on characters and concepts. And you're like, I wonder if you catch that. And as far as the cover goes, I guess, of course, I'm going to say the Viper's nice. And you get a close up of that rifle, kind of, right? It doesn't look, would you say the M1 Garand last week?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like a mixture of.
It looks a little bit true to form here, right? If I can get it in the light.
Yeah, it was a mixture of a few different things.
Yeah, see how he has like a post grip on the barrel? So it's more true to form than that M1 Grand we were watching before. Uh-oh, where'd my comic book go? Sorry, guys, hold on. There we go. Okay. And then I still got to change screen again and click on that one too. It's crazy to share screen. Yeah, it's pretty generic other than that, just I guess.
But now they call it the Memory Machine on the next page. So if we track down to the next page, they're back to calling it the Memory Machine.
Yeah. And then there is one other thing that's different. The splash page, it finally has what we were talking about earlier. The intro.
Yes.
It finally has the intro, which I was complaining about from the first one. I was like, where's the intro? I mean, that's iconic. You have to have that. Well, they did.
They may not have known what the intro even was based on the info we heard on the last letter and then response from the editor, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, they put it in here.
At least they finally have it in here, but then we're going to find out, everybody, that they've got the intro in here, but now we're not tracking with the show anymore. Right? We're moving on to what's called the Memory Machine. And I'm going to be honest with you, I liked it. I thought we got 5 comics sticking to the show. You got a good start to it, right? And then they changed it up. And of course, you're kind of like, oh, what's going on here? But I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Now, the scan of this is incredibly poor, by the way. Just to preface this, the art appears to have been damaged, or the scan was just that bad. So,
the
have a little bit of grace when you're looking at this.
Yeah, we'll give it a little more because you can tell the sky and stuff. It's not great, but the Battlestar, that view is kind of like some of the views that we've been wanting with better detail.
Yes, I no longer have issues with that.
I don't have issues with this one. It's still a little odd the way in the back end, but hey, it's okay. The lead in is now with the full military honors. Serena has a space funeral, but I wanted to touch on the wording here in the second block on the top left. It's a little rough if you read that, JT. Good.
Which one do you want me to read?
The second block of that one to the left there above at the bottom, the second one.
But Cobalt is lifeless now, as lifeless as Captain Apollo's wife, Sabrina, who was slain. Yeah, like damn, that's cold. Like how they just wrote it so matter of factly like that. Anyway,
yeah, dude, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, wow. Okay, that was cold-blooded, dude.
And now the sun is blood red, and in the last issue it was white. I'm just gonna point that out.
Completely white in the other one.
Yeah. So then on the bridge of the Battlestar, a troubled Commander Adama shares his son's sorrow. And he's thinking about how great she was.
Yeah, everybody's down.
And he misses his own wife too. So he's got like double sorrow going on. So, they're kind of just saying, hey, Commander, shake out of it. Cylons know where we are.
It's up to Ty
we got to get moving.
Ty's got to be he's got to do his job here, right? Unfortunately, pretty sad stuff, man. When I watched the show and then reading the comic book, they hit it pretty hard here, which was pretty good.
Of course, now he's a single stepdad, right?
Yeah. I mean, he just met her, fell in love.
The kid doesn't have anyone else, so that makes him, I guess, the only one left to look out for him. So now he's got this responsibility that's going to kind of haunt him for not having her. He's always going to think about her with the son in the picture, right? And then you see this little thing where the boys crying, but warriors don't cry, and then it shows the vulnerability of Apollo on the next page. I do like that little cutaway into the story and the character. So
I like the cutaway, that little pink mustache thing there. It matches the sun. I don't understand the contrast, but the cutaway is great. It really, he loved her. She was a great character.
Question: does he have a mustache in that shot?
Oh no, but it looks like it looks like he does. I don't get it.
He does not, but
it's a red sun. You could have just draw a lip there.
He doesn't have a bottom lip.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah. Anyway, a few minutes later, the funeral service is done. The honor guard comes back on, and then Starbuck, and he's got the pilot here. Who is this? Athena, I think it is.
I think I'm pretty sure it is.
It's not Athena. It's not Athena.
Her.
No, I disobeyed a direct order. Oh wait, yes, it is her.
Yeah.
You just can't see the commas. The commas matter. No, I disobeyed our direct order, Athena, and I played right into Baltar's hands. It's my fault. Sabrina's dead. See BSG, the previous issue, for details.
Yeah,
You
and I
can't
think
mean that, Starbuck, and he's already
no, you
hitting up the
can't.
tobacco real quick.
Yeah, I think he's reading in that way too much, because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have had to bring him back to the planet. And then if it wasn't for him, this, and then, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's just feeling guilty.
There's a maturity aspect to it, I think, where he's not
Hmm.
the most mature person in the world, because he rips off his, I guess you would consider that, well, it's part of his uniform, but the pin that shows that he's a Viper pilot,
Yeah, that's
he
his Viper
takes it off
pilot.
and chucks it at the ground.
Yeah, yeah. So when if he's doing something like that, he's feeling really, really bad, like really bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the scan is kind of rough here, right? Especially the black outlines of space. It's a little distracting, especially the lettering is a little rough, but you can still read it. And they're just it's kind of filler here, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
really is. It's a half page of filler.
It's they're just ships out in space. Starbucks feeling bad. There's nobody talking. Did you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
The ragtag fleet. There's the Cylons flying around. And then it's barely
You
moved
know,
out of scanner range when
Dave, what
from
does
the
this feel like to you?
as far as
What does this page feel like to you? I have an answer. I'm curious to see.
for me, it was like I said, it was just kind of filler until you get down to Lucifer here at the bottom.
This to me feels more like a comic book, where
yeah,
the first 3 issues were a story smashed into a comic book art
yeah,
form. This feels like a comic book because the pacing of it is, I guess, a little bit less dense, and you can focus on art a little bit more, and you can stretch the story many more
yeah,
pages now.
yeah.
So this, yeah, when I get to here, it starts to feel more like they're
Well,
doing their own thing, and
and
it really
it's
shows.
and you're absolutely right, because it's also another point in time for plot lines that okay, Serena died. That was horrendous. Did the funeral. They've left that planet, right? Cobalt.
Mhm.
And now you can pretty much again do whatever you want, right?
Right.
Because as you guys know, I won't spoil alert too much. In the show, the next episode is Apollo has an old Western one-on-one with the Cylon, which is so
Hmm.
cool. I love that episode. Well, most of it anyway, right? But so we're going in a different direction here, everybody, and it's kind of cool. Um, but they are filling in a little bit here. I didn't want to say so. The fleet has barely moved out of scanner range from the opposite direction. Several Cylon fighters shriek through the eternal darkness. But somehow they know that Cobalt's there. I guess they see
Yes.
the light. All right. It's
Hmm.
weird how they do things like that. Doesn't make sense. But okay. I guess they find it, but Lucifer's with them. And by your command. I guess I got to do my by your command thing. I'm not going to mess with it tonight.
That's fine.
There's too
So
many
the
buttons to
Cylons are
push.
coming back to Cobalt to go talk to Lucifer on the planet, and look at the wreckage. We're too late. They've escaped.
Yeah.
And what of Baltar? We have found Baltar in the temple. Really?
Yeah. Interesting, right?
And so over here, cough, cough. Help me! I'm in behind the rubble and I'm dying. So
Yeah.
it would seem, old friend, and they were totally aware of his attempted betrayal the whole time.
Well, this
So
whole
the
thing with
terror on Baltar's face, right?
yeah. Oh well, yeah, definitely. That's a good shot if Baltar like. Oh, I don't know if I'm in a better position that Lucifer's here or not.
Yes.
This might not be to my advantage. You better start talking, dude. That's what you do best, right? But this Lucifer character is quite interesting here. number one, because they said the humans have escaped, right? We're too late, which means that was a battle. They were ready to go fight, right? Obviously, that's what he's saying. We're trying to catch him again, and we're too late. And Lucifer's with them. I don't know. I think he's smarter than that, even though he's not biological, right?
Right.
I don't know, unless he's trying to be more of a leader here, that he would be in any kind of battle formation leading anywhere. I just don't see it in Lucifer, because on the show, it just doesn't seem like that, right? He's not that type of kick-ass robot, right?
Right. Well, he's showing up afterwards. So
yeah, he's a politician.
I mean, yeah. So when he goes down here, you know, they find him. Baltar's buried. He needs help to be removed from the rubble. And so then, you know, he's taking joy out of the guy that tried to betray him being crushed under the rubble in that predicament, which is total
villainry from a computer, though. And he calls
but you can relate
depressing.
To it.
Right. We can relate to it as humans. But you got to always remember, he's not human, but how well is he made? He called the place such a depressing place.
Yeah, right.
I found that hilarious, man.
Right.
You know, and then he got all serious with the death thing. But come on, that was pretty funny coming from a walking laptop, right? But then again, it makes you feel like he's way, way more technologically evolved than the regular Cylons.
And this story just flows so much better than the first 5 issues that we've read, from page to page and you know, pane to pane on this. You can just see your mind is much better at drawing the connections between each image, and you can tell what's happening in the story. Like when I start to read this, I get into my comic book type mind instead of like a book reading or trying to remember what happened in the show type of mind. And that might just be me, but I have like a certain mental state when I read a comic book where my mind is filling in the motion in the scene and like building that visual, like building the video in my head almost. When I'm reading these comic books, I don't know if you have that, Dave, but that's what my mind is constantly doing when I look at these.
It flows, and if you're not careful, you can really fly through these comics and have to go back and read it again, right?
Yes,
because you can just go too fast, and then you want to go back and to try to read it again. That's what happened with me today. I read 5 and 6 so quick that I was like, but I'm going to do it on the show, so I'm not too worried.
In the organization. Yeah, and the organization of this, like if you look at these first 3 that go across the top, he's saying, of all in the name that's good and holy, you can't leave me here not like this. I can lead you to the humans, still trying to bargain his way out of this. And then like the arm raises, I can help you. I don't remember seeing that type of exactly. And you know exactly like what's going on, and it's very vivid in your mind. We didn't really get a whole lot of that in the previous issues because they were so focused on trying to be shot for shot like the comic or the comic to the TV, right?
Yeah, and then running out of time at the last page, right? Especially the last half pages.
Yes.
Just like what was the one issue?
Because
I don't want to go back too much, but the one was bad.
50 some odd minutes of a TV show don't line up to 30 pages in a comic book. They do not. Yeah. You really need like 1 minute a page minimum average. I think would have done a better job, but then it would have been too long of a book. So then you have Lucifer there saying, "Oh my, yes, you will help me far more than you could have ever imagined." And he's not looking at Baltar at that point. It's important to realize he's looking at the area that that Commander Adamo was looking at when he was trying to find the paths of the 13 tribes. So they're going to start excavating this and seeing what they can glue back together and figure out how to find Earth on their own and find the humans without having to necessarily tail them at every step of the way.
Yeah, and Baltar got lucky on this one, right? Pure happenstance that his plan actually is going to save him now, because he knows that Lucifer is going to try to find him, but he also knows Lucifer knows that Baltar was there before it collapsed, and that he might have the information, but he might not be too happy about that, how he's going to get it from him. At least I would think.
Right.
You know, and then Athena is giving Apollo a little grief here. I didn't really like that. It's good. when I mean I don't like it, it's not that I don't like the comic. I don't like it that her character. It's actually good that I would feel that way, right? That means you're doing a good comic.
Yes.
You know, you're drawing out feelings of the reader. And she's giving him flack here, and I'm like, too soon, Athena. I mean, get off his ass. You know what I
We
mean?
don't know after a fashion. I think that means after a while. We just don't know.
Yeah,
In a
it's
week.
after a fashion. What does that mean? Several weeks later? I mean, that would help, right? Several months of traveling, you know. I don't know what after a fashion is either, JT, but it's like, okay, for us though, you've got to understand, oh, that was the last page. We get the time space thing. We talk about it every week and we'll continue to do so. But it's really quickly done. She's just
And she
already in him. Gotta
smoking.
move on. What?
She is smoking on this page.
Oh, yeah, that long red hair is so great. And she's a brunette on the show, but they do the color difference for the backgrounds.
Except Sean popped in. Hey,
Sean. Hey, man. How's it going? Thanks for coming by.
Yes, we are partial the art as well on this page.
Oh, is he tearing
not complaining at all?
Hey, can we link? Did we link J-Man and Sean's pages? Can we give them a shout out, JT?
Yeah, I can.
I would have to move.
A moment.
Can I move this over to the comment section and do it, or do I do it right on the YouTube side?
I'll find it. I at least have J-Man. I can tell you that.
Yeah, J-Man and Sean, because they've helped me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. They always give me props when I come in and say hello. Sean, you're just crushing those comics, man. Jeez, I can't keep up with you, dude. You and Nick Weiser, you just roll through these comics, man. And Sean did a Transformers thing as well, which I was lurking on earlier today. And thank you, JT, for that. I just want to give those guys a shout out because they do it for me. So
sure.
And I'll talk to you about how I can do that, but I'm not sure. I don't want to mess with this comic string, the scrolling through here.
And there's Sean's channel.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because they always give me shout outs. So yeah, Athena's given him a little bit of grief, but Sean, we were saying we don't
on the past or the future.
Well, you know, hey, little sis, my wife just got blasted right in front of me. Can you back that frack off? That's what I would have said.
They are military brats. You know, maybe they don't know how to be, you know, show a lot of empathy towards each other. Maybe they're just tough a-holes.
Well, Athena knows. She was up on the bridge a lot of the time, right? Before, with that other cute little number that was always up there on the show. Yeah. She's seen a lot going on with her father, with Zach. I think she would have a little more empathy, or you know what I mean, sympathy, to say, I'm just going to let him take as much time as he needs, because, like I said, they don't say it's been 6 months or 3 weeks or. So she throws on the fact that Starbuck threw his insignia down and is blaming himself and is putting it on Apollo to go talk to him.
Right.
And of course he does, because he's a good dude. He talks to Starbuck about it. I think they were going to get into a fist fight here.
About it too. You know what I think? I think you're just using my wife's death as an excuse for you to give up, to quit trying.
Yeah, and if there was ever a time that I can remember, a few times Starbuck could have actually got away with a right punch to the chin there. It might have been that one.
Yes.
But Starbuck turns it into a responsibility thing. I'm not sure about that. I think I might have slugged him for saying that to me, though. What? Yeah. Pow.
Well, then he angrily says, I've never shirked my responsibilities. And then he goes full Starbuck. Well, hardly ever anyway.
Yeah. A weird little statement after what he just got said, what was told to him. But they don't punch each other. They shake hands. And I think it was good for both of them, because they're such good friends, though, right? It's
yep. And so then they're going to go sit in the gallery on the Council of 12.
Yeah, warriors may attend if they like. I'm like, Okay, I guess I don't necessarily know that they
Adama
were.
is the president in the comics.
Yes, he is. He is the president here. In Sayuri, he's always plotting on him, always talking trash behind him. Uh, and it was interesting that I can't remember when Adama would have gloated in front of Sayuri at the council meeting, because I would have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he says, "Hey, gentlemen, the quorum." Like you said, JT, he is the president. And then, of
Yes.
course, this dude's like, "Well, for the time being." I was like, "Listen, dude, he just actually found that place."
Well,
You know what I mean?
this is also because it's a comic book now and not an adaptation of an episode. So we would have probably gotten a whole page of just nothing but speech bubbles. And now we just get one shot at it, right?
Well, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And that's why I love you having on here, man, because we are moving on from the show. But Sire is still there. I guess that was a wasted opportunity for Adama to thumb his nose at him and say, "Hey, listen, dude, why don't you shut up for a while? I got this. You see what I just did?"
Yep.
And they missed that for the most part, or at least I would have really laid into him. And then Starbuck meets this lady. Where's the
but he got Apollo gave Starbuck his pin back.
Yes.
So that way it's like a way of saying you're back in, which is an important thing of like a cheer up kind of moment there. That's just not given the time of day.
Oh
yeah. And then this Medea.
Yeah.
Not that Medea from all those. Not that Medea. It's this, but anyway.
Oh yes, it's up Shauna. An omnibus with the super special being in it as well. If you want to go back, really interesting on this one here. A few minutes ago, we did bulletin, whatever it was, about a guy talking to the people from the comic book about all the stuff we've been talking about. It was kind of cool. So he meets this person, right?
Socialator or socializer? Socialator.
Yeah, I wrote
that
it
looks
down.
like it, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, that was in number 5. I missed it. Starbuck makes reference to a Gemini socialator. It's hilarious, dude. I can't believe I missed that. I didn't have that in front of me. So I had my notes and I didn't follow.
They're like, "Can we talk?" And he's like, "Well, there is this, high top level political meeting, and they can't do anything without me there. But if you want to go into this, quaint little corner of this lounge, and we can start drinking." And she's like, "Oh, it's like what?" He's totally led around by something other than what we can say on the show. So.
Right. Well, I don't care. I'm not monetized. I mean, let's face it. It's a little weird that he doesn't catch on to how she just showed up like that. "I'm looking for you, Starbuck." And he's like, "Wait a second. What? Why?" He didn't care. He doesn't care. He's just straight up, "Oh, for real? Like you said, I'm moving. Let's go over here." Just like you said.
Right.
He just moved. He just screw the meeting. I'm out. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And then who he meets, your favorite, right in the hallway, always there somehow.
Well, he's just there to be there.
And Mark said he's just there to be there, right? Yeah. Got to have the kid. Got to have the kid in the show. He brushes him off. "See you, Boxy. Bye. I got things to do." What does he say?
Don't
never
mix business with pleasure.
Yeah. Never mix business with pleasure. Okay.
Meanwhile, in the council chamber. Yeah. And then.
Yeah. So Adama he's being too nice, right? Like he does kind of say like what I was saying about, well, the fleet has managed to evade, but Sayuri's just going to come back and say, "Yeah, but how long?" There's always, he's got this guy, he's a piece of trash, right? This Sayuri. He left his wife on the planet on purpose and kept all that food. And I should do my little C issue number 3. But he doesn't really rip into him like I was saying. He stays the course, Adama. He stays a politician. But he had his chance here to really embarrass Sayuri in front of everybody, and he didn't take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he actually lets Sayuri weasel in on the conversation because he didn't crush him here. Oh, I see. Our course is clear. The safety and all this. He's just mixing words with the Dama. And what of the people on the other ships? And this dude, JT, is pretty much saying, "Well, just leave all the people behind."
Oh yeah, yeah. He says, I'm trying to save. In trying to save a few meaningless lives, this man will lead us all to our graves.
Yeah, meaningless lives. Okay, so nobody on the council. This does irritate me about the show or this comic here. That nobody on the council was like, "Wait, what? What did he say? All those people? Nobody's coming to Adama's defense here." Except I guess it was this dude here. Would you leave them behind as well? Somebody does say something, but it's not a guy in the council. It's Master Technician Shadrach comes up with an idea, but it's not like he jumped up and said, "Hey, what the hell are you talking about, dude?"
Right.
You know what I mean, JT? What this guy says here is just freaking horrible. And nobody really says much about it except the Dama. And then again, he loses his opportunity to crush this guy by saying, "Hey, listen, I won't say this, but I was going to say something about him, but a-hole, that
Right.
I was right. We found Cobalt. I did this. We've done this. Now shut the frack up. You know what?"
Right. Right.
And then this guy says, "I can get everybody up to light speed in 2 weeks." And then Adama finally says, "Hey, you heard the man." So he does finally tell Yuri to basically, "We're going to do what I say," but he still goes on and on and on. We don't have a few weeks, right, JT? He's just whatever this guy
gonna
can
have
say.
to force him to ask for his resignation.
Yeah, it's always negative with this guy. He throws up the last couple of issues, number 3, which they actually do here. See number 3 and number 5. The near disaster on Carillion, but they got out of that too. And he does finally, Yuri, your words profane our oldest and most cherished beliefs. I wouldn't have even gone that far. That's too much politician right now. They're getting ready to go face to face. I found proof on Cobalt. So he mentions it, right, JT, but he just doesn't use it to his advantage that much, because now all he does will show us the proof, right? He uses it against them, as a good weasel would, right?
Right.
And they just go on and on for quite a bit here, but it's a good altercation between them because they're going to have to decide on what they're doing. And Adama is the president, but he still has to answer to these people, but not really. He's only doing it because it's politician stuff, right? Starbuck is doing his thing with Medea. They're just hanging out, chit-chatting.
And in 2 days will be a celebration on Yuri's ship. Do you want to go?
Yeah. How did she know that? Right? And be the personal escort. And he's not catching on, is he? Until now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you already pretty much know that there's going to be set up for some kind of mutiny or hostile takeover, try to get rid of Adama as the president, right? Based on what we know from A and B, and Starbucks walking into a trap because he lets himself be controlled easily, to put it nicely. So,
yeah, and Starbuck finally calls him a name, seeing a worm like that, and he's talking to Apollo, and I don't know who this one, just the pilot there, I guess. I don't know who she is. Apollo's like, well, the lady leaves with Sayuri and not Starbuck. She leaves him for him. That's got to be a little humiliating for Starbuck, right?
Right.
And then a short time later, we're moving on, guys. This is the quintessential point right, JT?
Yes.
That we completely 100% for at least now separate from the show. Adama wants to do something horribly dangerous. And I'm surprised Ty and everybody actually let him, but they can't stop him. He wants to go into this mind machine, right?
Yes.
So what do you think about this when you first read this?
I don't like it, mainly for the point of practicality. You go into this thing, but you go into it into a suit. So why are you going inside of something that clearly I don't think is supposed to be meant as a suit?
Yeah, I don't understand the suit thing. I guess it's liquid, right?
Mhm.
With the bubbles down here. I went a little too fast there. And they're trying to talk about I want to set up this. It's a memory machine because Adama wants to remember what he saw at the crypt on the writings. He
Mhm.
only remembers a little bit. So they call it a memory machine. Here they call it a memory inducer. But the important part is a device used to pry open and lay bare the minds of traitors and saboteurs. It can be brutal. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Is Adama really going to go in this thing? So they actually have this to begin with, right, JT?
Right. Yeah. There's nothing at this technology level ever indicated anywhere else that
They
they
have
would
a
have
torture
something
machine.
like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have a mental torture machine on the
And who are
Galactica, but
they torturing? Like,
criminals and all that. But
you
then
gonna
I
throw
guess
some
if you
toasters in here? Like, well, what the heck? Like, I just seems like
traitors and saboteurs.
a lot of work, a lot of effort for something you're like not really going to use much. Hopefully,
Yeah. And then I guess you have to go to think that, okay, it's a military ship. And if
Mhm.
they catch spies and saboteurs and traitors, okay, I get it. I get it now. It's just odd that for the battle, you wouldn't have seen it coming on a Battlestar Galactica watching the show
Yes,
or the comic. But
yes,
if you think of it like a militarily, okay, but it's still weird. They have this big ass liquid machine. It
Mhm.
doesn't fit.
So it,
But
yeah, Mhm. And he
uh,
doesn't immediately even start back in directly on Cobol. He starts by going back to Caprica,
yeah,
and having a memory of his wife's death there. And then, of course, to ramp up the tension, they say, Athena starts saying, "The pain's too much. You have to stop." And then the guy working at the doctor says, "We can't stop now. His mind will fall apart on the next frame down there."
yeah. And well, then there was the thing about is this where they said that he knew that his wife was there, or was that on a different page? I missed that. I didn't write the page number down.
He
There
found
was
the
always
mother
some
inside, but
debate.
it was too late.
Yeah.
That's at the last speech bubble.
Okay, that was last time he found his mother. There it is. Okay, he found mother inside. So that ended the debate of whether or not she was there from the beginning.
Mhm.
Then you go back and say, oh, well, then he always knew that she was there. Oh,
Yep.
if you didn't know at this point, right? Um, they're just really talking about what's going on. I think that's Boomer, probably Athena and the Doctor, or that's Commander Ty. Um, Colonel Ty. Yeah, Colonel Ty. That's
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
Uh, and the doctor is like, okay, like you said, it's going to shatter his mind. And until he finds the one memory, he's not going to stop. But the doctor actually could pull the plug on this thing literally whenever he wanted to, right? I
Yes.
mean, Adama can't stop him. You know, he's yell at him later, but oh well.
Mhm. On this
uh,
scene, they ruined the battle star. The way
Again,
they drew it. Look at that. It's like
it's
the sides are pointing outwards instead of straight ahead.
yeah, the whole thing with the launching base is at an angle. There's
Yeah.
no lines. It's just a shiny. It's like a Cylon,
Right.
Cylon armor body.
So they've
Uh,
started repairs, on
yeah,
this, and this master guy with all the muscles is starting repairs. And
in
then,
the wicked mustache,
yeah,
and then he doesn't have it in the next one or something.
I
I don't know.
find
It's
that
weird.
2 ships are missing.
Dun dun dun.
How could this have happened?
There's a monitor. Finally, I get my monitor shot here. I've been waiting. I might have missed a few or two there, but they've got to get those in, right? It's like I have to expect it. If I don't get my monitor shots, I don't like it.
And that something's wrong. The council members have gathered aboard the Rising Star, but I can't seem to get through to them. They've broken off all communications with the Galactica. So something is wrong. You sense a trap is coming. That's Sire Yuri's vessel, which we already knew that.
Yeah, well, Commander Tai is going absolutely freaking bonkers because there's 2 ships missing, right?
Yes.
He's
they're
pretty pissed.
They're scrambling the Vipers, but as they approach the Rising Star, you're not cleared to land. But they come in anyway, even though they're not cleared to land. So they're doing a boarding action now. So he's starting to point blasters.
Yeah, I like this middle one. Look out! And they're coming right in on him, which is quite dangerous to begin anyway, right? If there's people there, they did it anyway. Yeah, but and then they go at it with the private police that we met before, right? Yuri's guys.
Yeah, and so they break in. Nice party. That's all I can really say. You know?
Well, guess who's at the table?
None other than Starbuck.
No, Starbuck with a cigar.
Playing with money, of course.
He's
got money. A big stack of chips right there.
Yep. But Apollo Boomer.
And they ask him where Sire Yuri is. He's like, oh, he's right over there. Like, is something wrong? And he starts grabbing his money, the chips off the table right away because he already knows, right?
I'm glad you noticed that, because what did we say before? He's always had bad luck. Whenever he's playing on the show or in the comics, he has to scramble to get his money because either the ship's under fire or people are running out, taking their money with him. He's always getting hosed.
And then my least favorite duo shows up. What are you doing here? Uncle Starbuck said it was all right. I
don't know about that. I don't know if he's going to let Boxy. Yeah, I don't know if he actually told Boxy he was allowed to come up on there. What did you say, that he's there to be there?
Yes.
So they blame Starbuck, and you never know. I guess if Starbuck's in a good mood, he'd be like, it'll be all right. I'll keep an eye on him. But I can't see Starbuck saying, hang out in the casino like that. I mean, down on that planet, they didn't have a choice because he always was running away and getting caught anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they get into it with these private security guys again. And they had to pull weapons, which is Boomer had to do it the last time, right? Put it right in the dude's face. Now they have to do it again. And it was Boxy that shows them the way, which was weird. But, then they have it out with these guys.
Uncle Starbuck? Well, Captain, you know how it is.
And then, it's funny because, that's okay. Because we haven't seen Boxy a lot. He's just been popping in. No one full page splashes for him lately, right? Like he got before. But then apparently those private guys, one of the guys got up the gumption to start shooting at the Colonial Warriors.
Right.
Like, okay, now it's serious. And
now
that's
it's
what
on.
Starbuck. Now it's on. That's what Starbuck and Apollo are saying. Oh shit! Basically, sorry for the cuss word. These guys are actually firing at us now. So things got real. And here we go. Like you said, the plot is on with this dude.
He's trying to just get enough members of the council together. So 7, just enough of majority so he can convene a meeting to get rid of Adama as president, and then have another vote to install himself. And just in the nick of time, our intrepid heroes bust in.
Yep. And I dropped it again because of the politics, the angle here. And this is where I go back to where I'm saying that Adama should have really hit hard to put this guy and tell everybody this guy's full of it. You need to listen to me, and from more on, don't listen to him. But he didn't really do that. And this is what happened. He's trying to stab him in the back and get rid of him, just like you said. They bust in and look at Athena. Woof. Man,
Oh yeah,
she up in his face. She's up in his grill, dude.
right.
Yeah. You're doing this without my father? Now, Yuri doesn't know he's in the machine. Of course, he would have said that, right, JT, if he did.
Right.
This is where I was saying that if Adam knew he was going in that machine, he really would have thought, I got to take this guy out somehow before I start doing stuff like this. But, and then we get the bomb, the news. How can you accuse me of such evil? Well, because we all know you're, a piece of, you know what? And I would never do anything like that. Everybody here knows he's full of it. And then he tells them, well, it really doesn't matter because I'm the new president of the Council of 12, which I don't see how they could have done it. But then you say, apparently you can get outvoted. It's a democracy then, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which I would have thought would have been electing would have had to have been 100%, right? Everybody has to vote.
You would think there would be rules like that, right?
Yeah.
Or at least 2/3, some higher bar.
Yeah,
but no.
and nobody questions where's the everybody on the council or what's because they've all bowed to this guy, and it's just so odd to me that nobody has gone to Apollo or Starbuck on the side or on the sly with Commander Ty, and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. I'm not with it. I'll do what I can. You know what I mean? Nobody on the council's on Adama's side. But there it is, folks. Sayuri has taken over. And that is
possibly, if I had to guess, I think there's going to be a conflict coming up in the next episode about this. I don't think it's going to go down smoothly.
No, I don't think Starbuck, Apollo, and Colonel Ty, when he finds out after they lost 2 ships, and I don't believe that it's going to go over well, like you said. But overall, issue 6 flowed really quickly. Sorry if I was taking too long, JT. I know it's getting late for you.
No.
I really wanted to
get soon, but it's I still got some time.
You cut out and come in whenever you need, man. I just wanted to go over that bulletin. I thought that was really cool that guy Dave had wrote that letter, and apparently he wrote a couple to him. And they answered a lot of questions just in that. And that's why I was telling everybody you should read these, read the soapbox ones if you want to, but the bulletin ones are pretty cool. And I think it adds to the comic book flavor, right? It's not just read that. Those are part of I like the ads, the comic book ads. I think I'll do a stream on some of the things I brought up before. Like I bought the switchblade comb, right? Back when I had hair. When I was younger, the little gum. I'm saying too much. I'm already letting on my stream, but we've only got like 2 or 3 people watching. So, and they probably bought that stuff when they were a kid too. So
sure.
Well, let's go ahead and cut it quick.
Okay.
And
do we want to give our assessments of the episodes?
Yes, or definitely. Go for it.
I keep talking. I do.
See
how mixed up I'm getting between live action and the comics. Issue number 5, I give that one a B-. I thought, there were obvious mistakes in the art still. I did love the front cover. It does follow pretty faithfully with what's in the show. I just think, once again, they took too many liberties with the timeline, like with the doctor, the medicine portion, finding the cure. Or the antidote for the sickness was, just really cut out. And then we cut out the whole journey to the planet and them finding the wreckage. I feel like that could have been almost another whole comic in and of itself
Yes.
with those two things missing. So I was a little sore about those. And it leaves the reader without knowledge of the show, kind of lost in some places. So I can't give it higher than a B minus, but I did enjoy it nonetheless. It's just, you like it and then you have to take things away. Right. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm just agreeing with you.
oh no, go ahead. What was yours for number 5, I guess?
Yeah, it's about the same. I liked it. Other than a couple of those points that you brought up, I'm right there with you. Some of the plot lines, I don't understand some of the things they did. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
understand there's deadlines. I understand there's time constraints, deadlines, but there's also each individual thing that knowing that what Hungary had explained to us. And that's why I went over that letter, that they were under some severe time constraints, especially for the first 3, but we're in issue 5 now. Right.
Right.
So they should have gotten over most of that. And I still feel like there's still half of a comic missing. Right.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't understand why they couldn't have just put in another page 2 or here or there. You know what I mean? I get it that it has to be done, but if you're sticking faithfully to and they get an A for that, but I'm pretty much with you on 5 and probably will be for 6 too.
Sure. So for issue number 6, I think the weakest part was maybe the cover. It seemed like it ripped off of Star Wars a little bit too much, or I guess what later would be known as A New Hope. When I think of some of the posters for Star Wars, it kind of felt like that. It was not very well, it was not too imaginative or creative in that aspect. It wasn't bad art. It just didn't really move the needle for me and say, I want to pick this comic up, especially if I'm coming in at number 6. I don't care. Right. I give this an A minus because I think the comic book was allowed to breathe and it was allowed to live, and the characters were allowed to fill more archetypes of villains and heroes in this type of thing. And when people read comics, a lot of times they're reading it for superheroes and supervillains. And so it lends Battlestar Galactica into more of a comic book direction. And it's an original story too, which I like. I mean, you can still tell that it follows, I guess, the BSG universe pretty well. Like the characters don't just completely 180 on their heads or anything. Nothing becomes too implausible. But at the same time, I just feel like it tells a really good story in a good flowing format that we have not gotten up until now.
Yeah.
So it's a better read, I would say, than the first 5. Overall, I would say it's a really good read.
I think maybe was it 3 or 4 I really liked, but it does flow a lot better. And forgive me, I don't have my glass. I lost my glasses, so it's 28. It's 20. Well, the actual comic ends on the 27th page. I didn't take note of that. So it's actually...
Well, it ends on page 30, but there's pages missing for ads and things like that. They did not put in the scan.
Yeah.
It's far shorter than that.
It flows really well. The cover, of course, I like the Viper. I'm always going to like the Viper. And like I said, the Silent. But they just threw a bunch of overlays, and it doesn't really match, I guess, too much what's going on. I mean, well... I mean, with Serena dying and all that, and then moving on away from 5 and 6, right? I kind of want to put both of these together, to be honest with you, JT. I don't feel like I'm singling them out, because I guess number 6 kind of flows the way you said, and we get to move on from the show.
It's very much the sequel. It's a continuation, like Search for Spock is for Wrath of Khan, right? You can't really just watch Search for Spock in isolation without having the Wrath of Khan before that. If you're talking story wise, they are too interrelated without a clear demarcation. Also, the cover kind of lies to you a little bit. There are no Cylons in this episode, or in this. There I go again. In this episode, after the first 4 pages, certainly not in conflict, right?
No, there's
7,
a lot less pew pew pew, right?
After page 7, you don't see any of them.
Definitely a lot more lot more politics. You don't even see Cylons until Adama starts remembering stuff.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, there's not a lot of pew 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 in this one. Other than them fighting Sayuris, it's a lot more political. And the thing with the Doctor and Adama going in, I know you said you didn't like it with the machine, but without doing any spoiler alerts for the next couple of, or at least the next comic, there's a reason why I would say I like it. It's only because I had this, well, you know that Adama's in this thing now, right?
Right.
And you have this sense of dread that something could happen. You obviously know he's not going to die, or is he? We don't know, right? But because now we've veered off, we're completely detached, like you said, and that's kind of why I like it. They could have picked a billion gazillion things, right? So I was like, well, let's see what happens in 7. I'm not going to say I liked 7 yet or not, but I like the concept of what they did with Adama, but I'll save that for later. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
And for
Sounds
5
good.
and 6, I give it A, B plus, A. I'm still a little confused on some of the things they did in 5. 6 flowed. Some of their choices on panels, but I think that's going to be through all of them, right? You know, the Baltar thing was a little weird because he just like you said, he just shows up and then he's got a plan, and then the Lucifer thing going down there. I don't know, but you got to get things done. It's just a comic book and you're having fun, and I like them, overall. So. Well, I think what you got going on for the rest of the week, and we'll get out of here.
Let's see. I may be hanging out with Dad Man later in the week. We'll see. I know Mark has put some, I guess, tentative plans to not be on the shows because of some work and some things like real life commitments he's got to get to.
Yeah, he couldn't make it tonight. He did let me know. Sorry to cut you off. He did let me know. Sure. That he couldn't. He probably couldn't make it. So
yeah, the solid commitment I have is Saturday night at 9:30 Eastern on Admiral Teague's channel. We are doing a Star Trek show as always, and covering the next episode of season 1 in Star Trek Enterprise. And I like the episode. There's some cool technology and cool pew pew as well in that. For this weekend. So, but don't worry if you don't have a copy of Enterprise. We like to have it as kind of a viewing party where we're all sitting on our virtual couch with some popcorn, right? And we enjoy the episode together. So I encourage anybody if they like or love Star Trek to come join us. So
yeah, and Sean asked I don't know if are you still there, Sean? I'll answer this. Yes, no, maybe running to go type yes or no.
It's a yes. Yes, it is.
It is yes. Rich, yes. I don't have my glasses, man. So I could.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what you were saying when you didn't have your glasses. The art is done by Rich Buckler and Klaus Janson.
Yeah, that is Rich. Yeah, you're right. It is Rich Buckler and Klaus Janson for the art. Thank you, JT. Thank you for saying that. I can read that actually. I wouldn't be able to go through this whole show like that.
But. Yep. Jim Novak on the coloring and Carl Gafford on the coloring.
Yep. And so with that being said, thank you, Sean, J-Man, Gap After Dark, Putin, and whoever else I might have missed for being here. As always, I appreciate it. It's always fun. And next week, I may or might be doing a special with Nick. I'm still trying to get that nailed down, something different. Sure. If not, we'll just do the next 2 issues.
Sounds good.
And I'll let everybody know. So with that being said, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.